What if everything we think we know about ancient history is only a fragment of a much bigger, hidden truth? Beneath shifting sands, behind dense jungle canopies, and carved into silent mountain cliffs, the ancient world still guards secrets that refuse to fade with time. From lost civilizations erased without explanation to colossal monuments built with astonishing precision, history is filled with mysteries that challenge modern understanding. How were massive stones weighing hundreds of tons transported without advanced machinery? Why were thriving cities suddenly abandoned? And what knowledge did early cultures possess that seems far beyond their era? Ancient mysteries are more than forgotten stories. They are unsolved puzzles carved into stone, buried beneath ruins and whispered through legends. The deeper we explore these enigmatic sites, the clearer one truth becomes. The past is not fully written, and some of humanity's greatest secrets may still be waiting in the shadows, ready to rewrite history itself. Nestled against the vertical rock face of the Bandelier Valley, where thin white clouds drift across the ancient stone like threads of primordial mist, Sümela Monastery appears like a mirage, a structure belonging to no recognizable era of human capability. From afar, the monastery seems suspended in the air, clinging to a nearly vertical rock ledge, prompting anyone who sees it for the first time to wonder, how could Byzantine builders in the 4th century construct such a massive and intricate structure in a place that seems entirely impossible? There were no transport routes, no construction platform, no flat foundation, only a sheer, cold, harsh, and treacherous cliff. And yet somehow each heavy stone, each beam of wood, each section of wall was placed precisely where it needed to be, as though an invisible hand guided the craftsman. The architectural mystery lies not only in the technique, but in the knowledge that ancient people may once have possessed knowledge that has vanished without a trace. What do you think about this mystery? In your opinion, how did the Byzantine builders manage to construct such a massive monastery on a nearly vertical cliff? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Legend tells that 2 monks, Barnabas and Sophronios, in a divine dream, were guided by an angel to a rock crevice where they found an icon of the Virgin Mary miraculously appearing. This mysterious event compelled them to build a monastery, as if marking a meeting point between humanity and something sacred beyond ordinary understanding. Though unverifiable, the legend casts a mystical haze over the entire monastery, making it feel as though Sümela was not chosen through logic, but through an invisible force, a pull from a deep past, or a calling from the realm of the divine. Yet what makes Sümela one of the most fascinating enigmas in human history lies deep inside its interior, the strange frescoes, artworks that have defied time, weather, and scientific reasoning. The walls are covered with paintings, layered and reworked across many periods, but astonishingly, after 1,600 years, their colors remain remarkably vivid. Reds, blues, yellows, purples. They do not fade, they do not peel, unlike typical Byzantine frescoes that deteriorate easily. Some paintings even seem to glow faintly when dim natural light filters through narrow openings. Restoration experts have analyzed the pigment's brushwork and mineral components, but each analysis only deepens the mystery. The pigments do not match any known Byzantine technique, and some components suggest the artists used a special pigment capable of interacting with light in ways modern science cannot yet explain. The overlapping layers imply something else. Generation after generation of unknown painters quietly altered the content. Why did they do this? What hidden message were they trying to embed? And why do some motifs bear the markings of pre-Christian symbols, as if Sümela had once been a crossroads of ancient beliefs and secret rituals that time attempted but failed to erase? Walking through the monastery's dark corridors, visitors often feel as though they are passing through layers of different eras. Hidden rooms, secret pathways, and stone doors, tucked into narrow crevices, raise the question, what events once unfolded here? Some rooms are too small for living, yet too deep and sealed for simple storage. Certain corridors lead into pitch darkness, as if purposefully built to hide people, objects, or something history has tried to bury. During chaotic centuries of conflict and invasion, Sümela may have sheltered Orthodox believers or preserved documents no one wanted discovered. These hidden pathways remain as silent traces of time, reminders that some chapters of history were never written down. Another strange phenomenon lies deep within the cliff, a stream of water that never stops flowing. It emerges from a point where, geologically speaking, water should not exist. Yet regardless of winter frost or prolonged drought, the water continues to pour out clear and cold. Ancient people believed it was holy, while modern geologists still cannot determine its true origin. The monastery sits atop dry, elevated rock, completely disconnected from surface water sources. So how does an eternal stream exist here, unchanged for centuries? Is it the remnant of an ancient, forgotten water system, or a ritual structure intentionally crafted to symbolize eternal life? Despite its perilous position, Sümela has stood firm for more than 1.5 millennia, enduring earthquakes, snowstorms, and rockfalls. Modern engineers admit that the structure far exceeds the architectural capabilities typically attributed to the Byzantine era. Wooden frames were embedded into the stone to disperse vibration, while carefully designed stone joints distributed weight evenly across the cliff instead of concentrating it. This sophistication leads many to believe that the builder's knowledge may have come from an even older architectural tradition, one lost to history, leaving only faint traces in impossible structures like Sümela. And then comes the final question, hanging in the air. Like the monastery itself, why this location? It is inconvenient, distant from religious centers, and holds no significant military advantage, yet it was chosen with absolute precision. Some researchers believe this spot lies on intersecting geological energy lines, or once served as a ritual site for ancient tribes before Christianity. Others propose that the first monks perceived something, an invisible presence, when they stood before the cliff. Whatever the reason, the deliberate choice marks Sümela as something older, more sacred, and more mysterious than recorded history acknowledges. All of these elements, the impossible location, the angelic legend, the secret corridors, the advanced structural knowledge, the never-ending water, come together to form the mystical tapestry of Sümela. But it is the timeless frescoes that serve as the monastery's heart-silent eyes, observing humanity's changes for over 1,600 years. They are not just artworks, they are evidence of something modern science cannot yet decode: ancient techniques, ancient knowledge, and ancient secrets long forgotten by the world. As the pale mountain light touches their enduring colors, one cannot help but wonder, is Sümela guarding something history intentionally left behind? Hidden among the ancient ruins of Byblos, considered one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in human history, the Temple of the Obelisks emerges like a gateway into the mysterious world of the Bronze Age, a time when coastal communities of the Eastern Mediterranean were only beginning to form their beliefs, technologies, and social structures. Yet this temple displays an architectural sophistication that seems far beyond anything archaeology claims people of that era could have achieved. When early explorers first entered this site in the last century, they could not understand why dozens of smooth, uninscribed obelisks stood firmly in such an ancient environment, rising like stone spears, piercing the earth, arranged with a geometric precision that even advanced metal tools thousands of years later would struggle to replicate. No inscriptions, no symbols, no messages were left on these colossal stones. An eerie silence, as if the temple did not want or did not need to speak at all. What do you think truly happened at the Temple of the Obelisks? Did an ancient civilization possess construction knowledge far beyond what history tells us? Share your thoughts in the comments below. From the deepest archaeological layers, researchers discovered that the Temple of the Obelisks was not built once. Rather, it was dismantled and rebuilt several times across different periods, from around 2300 to 1900 BCE. What makes this repetition particularly puzzling is the absence of warfare evidence, major natural disasters, or any obvious reason for ancient people to destroy and rebuild such an important religious structure. Yet the most astounding aspect is not the repeated construction, but the illogical building techniques present in each foundation layer, each stone platform, and especially the manner in which the obelisks, many weighing several tons, were erected with perfect vertical alignment. Although tools of that era were merely stone grinders, bronze and wood tracers show that the surfaces of the columns were finished with remarkable flatness, and the edges were so square they appeared to have been cut with a high-speed metal saw. When examining the bases beneath the larger obelisks, archaeologists uncovered another paradox. The massive stone blocks were fitted so tightly that a thin blade could not be inserted between them. The construction used no mortar, only stone placed upon stone, yet the foundations have remained intact through over 4 millennia of earthquakes, erosion, sea storms, and climate shifts. What further complicates the mystery is that transporting such huge stones would require a massive workforce or lifting devices for which no archaeological evidence exists from the Bronze Age. Some scholars ask whether the temple's construction techniques were inherited from an even older civilization, perhaps one that vanished before recorded history. Even when compared with contemporary Egyptian pyramids, Byblos shows a unique refinement, a style that is non-Egyptian, non-Phoenician, non-Canaanite, as if it belonged to a culture that no longer exists. Digging deeper underground, archaeologists found hundreds of mini obelisks, much smaller stone pillars buried beneath the floor in highly consistent geometric patterns. Many were interred with animal bones, gold rings, amulets, bronze figurines, and ritual artifacts bearing Mesopotamian stylistic elements. These objects did not originate from a single culture, but appeared as a religious collection gathered from many civilizations across the Mediterranean and Near East. This raises the question, was the Temple of the Obelisks merely a local shrine, or was it a ceremonial hub for a cross-cultural religious network where merchants, chiefs, priests, and nomadic groups all came to perform rituals? These discoveries support bold theories that early Byblos was not only a major trading port, but also a crossroads of spiritual knowledge where cultures shared sacred symbols and advanced construction techniques. At the heart of all mysteries is the technique of erecting the columns. The largest obelisks are taller than a 2-story building, and the stone used to make them does not exist in any quarry nearby. This means ancient builders had to transport them from distant locations using methods for which no archaeological evidence exists. With no wheels, no metal pulleys, and no cranes. How did they drag, lift, and set these stones upright with perfect accuracy? Even using modern simulations, reconstructing the process would require at least 50 to 70 skilled laborers and a complex lever system, none of which appear to have been developed at that time. Some researchers note that the contact surfaces at the base of the columns show signs of slight rounding, reducing friction during placement. However, these marks are far too refined for the primitive stone hammering techniques traditionally attributed to ancient builders. This level of sophistication resembles that seen in massive megalithic constructions in South America, where stones are fitted so precisely that explanations remain elusive. And this is what makes the Temple of the Obelisks so remarkable. It is not as massive as pyramids, nor as ornate as Egyptian temples, yet its subtle details dismantle all assumptions about the technological limits of pre-Phoenician people. Marks on the stone surfaces suggest they were crafted using tools with extremely hard metal tips, even harder than bronze. But iron and steel had not yet appeared in the Levant at that time. So where did such tools come from? Some scholars hypothesize that Byblos imported technology from Anatolia or the Caucasus, where early iron may have emerged sooner, but no trade evidence supports this. The temple's technical features simply do not fit within the established historical model of technological development. Furthermore, the spatial layout of the temple reveals an unexpected sophistication. The larger obelisks appear aligned with solar movements throughout the year, forming sacred axes that the Phoenicians would only begin to adopt centuries later in their own architecture. This raises speculation. Did ancient inhabitants possess greater astronomical knowledge than we assume, or were they merely preserving an ancient tradition, one so old that its original meaning had already faded? The longer one studies the Temple of the Obelisks, the more it resembles a collaborative creation of many generations trying to preserve a sacred architectural knowledge that time was steadily erasing. A temple without inscriptions, yet filled with technical achievements far beyond its historical context. A small structure, yet one that challenges the understanding of an entire age. And above all, it forces us to question the civilization that once existed here. Were they truly as primitive as history teaches, or did they possess a form of technology engineering mindset or construction wisdom that modern scholars have yet to decipher? The Byblos Ahiram Sarcophagus is one of the most striking archaeological treasures of the Phoenician civilization, a rare surviving gateway that allows us to look deeply into the world of art-religion power, an ideology of a kingdom that once stood at the center of Mediterranean trade networks. This stone coffin is not only the resting place of King Ahiram of Byblos, but also a symbolic artifact containing mysteries far beyond what a typical archaeological object can evoke. At first sight, the sarcophagus astonishes viewers with its ancient Phoenician inscriptions among the oldest known texts of the Phoenician alphabet, which later served as the foundation for Latin, Greek, Hebrew, Aramaic, and most modern writing systems. What do you think makes King Ahiram's sarcophagus such a powerful mystery? Its religious symbolism, royal authority, or something else? Share your thoughts in the comments below. But beyond its linguistic significance, what truly overwhelms archaeologists and art historians lies in the extraordinarily sophisticated carving techniques, a sculptural style that seems almost out of its time, demonstrating technical mastery and aesthetic understanding far beyond what has traditionally been attributed to the Phoenicians in the early 1st millennium BCE. On the limestone surface, Phoenician artisans depicted the king in a regal pose, surrounded by attendants, musicians, and bearers of ritual offerings. The deep, sharp carvings, the precise anatomical proportions, and the harmonious overall composition make it difficult to believe that this artwork comes from a period often described by historians as primitive in terms of visual arts. The delicacy of the lines, the depth of the relief, the layering of spatial planes all indicate a sculptural tradition governed by a mature set of artistic principles comparable to, or even surpassing that, of neighboring cultures such as Assyria or Egypt of the same era. The more one examines it, the clearer it becomes that the Phoenicians possessed the technical capability to create knife-sharp cuts, natural shadow layers, and incredibly fine details, raising the question, did the Phoenicians possess stone carving technologies more advanced than what history records? Some scholars believe that the artisans used a special system of chisels or polishing techniques now lost to time. The deep carvings that do not crack or fracture the stone surface testify to a perfect understanding of stone grain, something many civilizations achieved only after centuries of experimentation. The fluidity of the garments, the folds in the fabric, the hair, the beards, and the details of the musical instruments are rendered with astonishing precision, suggesting that these artisans had an intuitive or trained understanding of anatomy, movement, and artistic composition. Beyond technical skill, the symbolism embedded in the carvings also astonishes researchers. Every figure, every object, every gesture carries deep religious significance, from the throne symbolizing the sacred authority of the king, to the ritual posture of the attendants, to the musicians who played a role in linking the living world with the divine realm during funerary ceremonies. This is not merely a piece of art, but a visual scripture in which the entire worldview of the Phoenician civilization is inscribed in stone. The precision of the carvings becomes even more mysterious when archaeologists question the true date of the sarcophagus. Some argue that the artistic style suggests it belongs to the late Bronze Age, rather than the early Iron Age, meaning it could be hundreds of years older than Ahiram. This leads to the hypothesis that the sarcophagus was not originally created for Ahiram, but was repurposed from an earlier royal tomb. If true, the extraordinarily sophisticated artistry becomes even harder to explain, for it would represent an artistic period almost entirely absent from historical records. The unbelievable finesse of each carving supports even more daring theories that Phoenicia may once have possessed secret royal workshops or elite groups of master artisans whose knowledge vanished due to war, natural disaster, or the collapse of dynasties. The fact that only a single masterpiece like Ahiram's sarcophagus survives makes many scholars feel as though this artifact is the remnant of a lost artistic tradition, a style that once flourished brilliantly but was later erased from civilization. Yet art is not the only source of mystery. The inscription on the lid, aside from being one of the oldest known texts in the Phoenician alphabet, contains a curse directed at anyone who would disturb the king's resting place. The threat that the gods would destroy intruders and erase their lineage creates an eerie atmosphere reminiscent of Egyptian tomb curses. This powerful language reflects the Phoenicians' deep belief in the sanctity of royal authority and the seriousness of their funerary customs. A deeper study of the Phoenician text reveals several unusual characters, possibly local variations or secret religious symbols that remain undeciphered. This makes the sarcophagus not only an artistic artifact, but also a linguistic puzzle. King Ahiram himself is a mysterious figure. Aside from this sarcophagus, history records almost nothing about him. His dynasty may have collapsed or disappeared due to war calamity or absorption by greater powers. Thus, the sarcophagus becomes the only surviving clue about his reign, and a mirror reflecting what the Phoenicians wanted future generations to remember. Even stranger is the fact that although the Phoenicians ruled for millennia and wielded enormous influence, very few royal tombs have survived. This absence makes Ahiram Sarcophagus feel like a surviving relic, a lone fragment of a vast and missing cultural landscape. Why did an entire maritime civilization that dominated Mediterranean commerce leave almost no royal burial traces? Did they hide them? Were they destroyed by enemies? Or did the Phoenicians practice a funerary tradition that is archaeologically difficult to detect? Each hypothesis only deepens the mystery. Amid all these layers of mystery, the extraordinarily sophisticated carving remains the most defining feature that makes the Pueblo's Ahiram Sarcophagus a unique masterpiece. It reveals that Phoenician artisans were not mere craftsmen, but master artists who possessed technical and aesthetic knowledge far beyond what history has acknowledged. This sarcophagus stands as proof that the Phoenicians often remembered only as merchants, and sailors also cultivated an artistic depth so refined and enigmatic that it challenges modern understanding. It is the fusion of exceptional technique, symbolic richness, ancient curses, primordial language, and obscure historical context that makes Ahiram's sarcophagus one of the greatest archaeological enigmas of the ancient Near East. Every detail, every carving, every symbol seems to tell a story that modern humanity has yet to fully comprehend, a fragment of stone-carved memory from another era, standing firmly at the crossroads of art history and unresolved mystery. Khandagiri Ananta Gumpha is one of the most enigmatic and difficult to decipher caves within the Khandagiri-Udayagiri complex in Odisha, India, where every carved line, every serpent-like motif, and every animal figure seems to whisper a story about an unusual form of craftsmanship far surpassing what is recorded for the 2nd to 1st century BCE. Stepping into the cave's quiet interior, one can sense that it is not merely a religious structure created for Jain monks, but a space that appears to conceal deeper layers of knowledge, symbolic understanding, acoustic awareness, meditative, spatial design, and most striking of all, a level of extraordinarily refined stone-carving skill that seems nearly impossible to explain with the tools of that era. The carved lines in Ananta Gumpha astonish researchers with their smoothness, precision, and uniformity as though produced by modern machinery. Historical records indicate that ancient stoneworkers primarily used iron chisels and simple abrasive tools, yet the carvings in this cave possess sharpness and fineness far beyond what such crude tools should allow. Observing reliefs only a few millimeters deep, but curved with identical consistency, one cannot help but ask, how were such markings on stone created without the aid of hard metal tools or precision measuring devices? In your opinion, where did the remarkably advanced stone carving techniques of Khandagiri Ananta Gumpha come from? Was it the exceptional craftsmanship of ancient artisans, a lost technique, or something even more mysterious? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The serpent motif's continuous, gracefully twisting bands are the clearest testament to this extraordinary craftsmanship. Their lines are not only fluid, but nearly perfectly symmetrical across repeated segments. Observers note that the motifs were carved with completely uniform depth on sandstone surfaces, a material prone to flaking and fracture. Achieving such control suggests that ancient artisans may have used a technique to soften the stone's surface, now lost to history, or they possessed metal tools capable of much finer abrasion than what is known from that era. Some bold theories even suggest the use of wooden molds or grid-based measuring systems, though no archaeological evidence supports this. The absence of such evidence only deepens the mystery of Ananta Gumpha. The refinement is undeniable, yet the methods used to create it have entirely disappeared from historical memory. Not only the serpent motifs, but also the animal and human reliefs display exceptional craftsmanship. Some animals are carved with such accurate proportions and fine detail, individual strands of fur. Tense muscles captured movement that archaeologists are left astounded. Certain species depicted are not even native to Odisha, yet they appear as though the artisans observed them directly in nature. This has led scholars to question ancient travel routes, trade networks, and cultural interactions, or whether a now-lost mobile carving school may once have existed. These mysteries further highlight the extraordinary observational skills of ancient artisans. They did not merely depict the forms of animals, but captured the essence of their motion, something extremely difficult to reproduce with simple tools. Another unusual aspect of Ananta Gumpha is the depiction of daily life scenes carved into the stone walls, which differ significantly from the artistic style found in other Jain caves of the same period. Many scenes of rituals, dances, and activities contain strong symbolic elements, and certain human figures have deliberately elongated or reduced proportions, as though conveying hidden messages through surreal anatomy. Several dancer poses have never been recorded in known ancient dance traditions, suggesting a unique ritual exclusive to the cave. These details turn the reliefs into a form of cultural code and encoded visual language that later generations have yet to decipher. This inability to interpret the carvings only enhances the cave's aura of mystery. The cave's layout also presents unusual features. The pathway leading inward narrows unexpectedly, then suddenly opens up, seeming purposeful rather than accidental. Researchers studying acoustics have tested sound within the cave and observed noticeable tonal changes depending on the position, producing a subtle, resonant effect. This has led to the theory that the cave was intentionally designed as a sound-based meditation chamber where chants or the controlled breathing of monks would resonate through the stone to enhance deep concentration. If true, this suggests that ancient builders possessed sophisticated environmental acoustic knowledge, something scarcely documented from that period. Although no definitive evidence confirms this, the cave's unusual design is too precise to be purely coincidental. Another mystery lies in the numerous unfinished carvings found throughout the cave. Some reliefs appear to be only one step away from completion, yet the artisans clearly stopped abruptly. There are no signs of collapse or natural disaster interrupting the work. This has led archaeologists to speculate about an unexpected event, perhaps a religious decree, a shift in political power, or the sudden disappearance of the artisan group. The fact that the project was abandoned without explanation makes Ananta Gumpha resemble a secret undertaking left incomplete. Within the dozens of caves in the Khandagiri-Udayagiri system, Ananta Gumpha stands out for its unique carving style and superior refinement. Many believe the cave was not used by ordinary monks, but may have served as a space reserved for high-ranking ascetics or special rituals belonging to a rare Jain sect. Some scholars suggest it functioned as a symbolic teaching chamber where practitioners studied visually encoded philosophical concepts. Since no ancient inscriptions confirm this, these ideas remain hypotheses, but the cave's distinctiveness makes them compelling. When viewed as a whole, what makes Ananta Gumpha one of India's most mysterious archaeological sites is the contradiction between its extremely refined carving techniques and the technological limitations documented for its era. The reliefs are too precise, too consistent, too flawless, so much so that modern stoneworkers admit that recreating them using ancient iron tools would be immensely difficult. Every detail displays absolute confidence curves without corrections, planes without chatter marks, rounded edges without deviation, not even half a millimeter off. It is as if the artisans possessed an intimate understanding of each grain of stone and each vibration of the chisel, as though they held a now-lost technique or a method of surface treatment unknown to later generations. This is why stone carving techniques ahead of their time is not merely a feature, but the central mystery of Khandagiri Ananta Gumfa. All these elements combine to make Ananta Gumfa a repository of unresolved mysteries, symbolic, yet technical, spiritual, yet technological, philosophical, yet suggestive of lost craftsmanship. It raises difficult questions about ancient knowledge. What tools did they truly possess? How deeply did they understand stone? How was such mastery transmitted, and why did the technique vanish without trace? Today, Ananta Gumfa still stands a silent challenge to every generation of archaeologists, reminding us that some chapters of human history remain hidden beneath the layers of time, and that we have only just begun to scratch their surface. Situated along the Tigris River in Turkey, Hasankeyf has long been considered one of the most enigmatic ancient settlements in the world. Towering vertical cliffs rise above the dry valley, carved deeply with thousands of large and small caves. Archaeologists today estimate more than 5,000 stacked in layers like a vertical city. What astonishes researchers most is that many of these caves are located at extremely dangerous heights, tens of meters above the ground, requiring advanced scaffolding or access tools that ancient civilizations are not known to have possessed. The site spans a wide chronological range from Roman Byzantine Artukid to medieval Islamic times. Some caves bear far older features, possibly prehistoric, leaving unanswered the question, which civilization created them first? The structures inside the caves show they were not merely shelters, but a multi-level city with living spaces, storage areas, defensive zones, and even stairways cut deep into stone in ways that seem far ahead of their era. Despite thousands of years of erosion, many cave interiors remain astonishingly flat and precise, as if carved by metal tools sharper than any documented in historical records. Who do you think was the first civilization capable of creating more than 5,000 caves in Hasankeyf? And how do you believe they accomplished it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Beneath the visible layers of cliffs and caves lies a sprawling network of subterranean tunnels, intersecting or diverging in patterns no one can fully explain. Many tunnels lead to deep underground chambers that ancient inhabitants may have used for hiding during invasions, storing supplies, or conducting sacred rituals. Some passages end abruptly, as if intentionally sealed to conceal something. Certain sections are blocked by collapsed stones, arranged in ways that appear man-made rather than natural. Narrow slits along the tunnel walls ventilate the chambers with surprising efficiency, suggesting an advanced understanding of underground airflow. Archaeological survey maps show a clear intentional hierarchy: upper levels for daily life, middle levels for storage, and deeper levels for ritual or refuge. Yet no surviving historical documents describe the design or purpose of Hasankeyf's underground network, allowing the mystery to persist across centuries. Hasankeyf is also known for its extraordinary stone architecture. A stone minaret, nearly 40 meters tall, once stood at the city's center. Although weathered, its core remains upright. The stones used to build it are large, sharply cut, and so precisely joined that many experts doubt they could have been crafted using the rudimentary tools of the era. Nearby lies the mausoleum of Zainel Bey, a blue-tiled domed structure in the Timurid style of Central Asia. The puzzle is clear. How could an architectural style from thousands of kilometers away appear fully formed in this region, surrounded by structures of entirely different design? The geographic gap, cultural transmission, and the refined brickwork required to build this type of dome suggest that Hasankeyf may once have been a crossroads of civilizations far more advanced than official history implies. These structures are not only beautiful, but unnaturally durable. Without steel concrete or modern reinforcement, they have survived earthquakes, floods, wars, and erosion for centuries. No description of Hasankeyf is complete without mentioning the Artukid stone bridge, 12th century, and the Artukid Palace, the core of the city's greatest enigma. The bridge was once one of the largest stone bridges of the Middle Ages, spanning the Tigris River and connecting the two halves of the city. Yet the most astonishing part is this: the main structure has vanished, leaving only the colossal piers still standing intact, despite lacking the superstructure that once held them together. These massive piers were built from finely cut blocks, fitted with such precision that modern engineers still struggle to replicate them. No historical records describe the engineering required to construct a bridge so wide, long, and tall, especially over the powerful Tigris and without modern lifting machinery. The greatest mystery lies in how the foundations were laid. The bedrock in Hasankeyf is relatively soft and prone to erosion, yet the bridge's base has endured for nearly a millennium. Some theories propose a multi-layered foundation of interlocked large and small stones to distribute weight. Others suggest the use of a lost waterproof anti-erosion compound. Some even speculate the Artukids possessed a form of ancient concrete, unlike any known today. No explanation has been confirmed. The mystery deepens with the Artukid Palace perched on the edge of a sheer cliff, at a location that to the naked eye seems impossible to build on. The slope is uneven, the rock face unstable, and the risk of collapse high, yet the palace stood for centuries. To transport heavy materials to that height, the builders would have needed advanced scaffolding or complex pulley systems. However, no physical traces of these systems have ever been found. Another question persists: why choose such a dangerous location for a palace? Some scholars believe it was a strategic vantage point for defense. Others think it served ritual or symbolic purposes, asserting the ruling power's dominance over the natural landscape. Another theory suggests the Artukid engineers had a deep understanding of the geological stability of the cliff, selecting the location with knowledge far beyond what their era supposedly possessed. No construction records, diagrams, or technical documents survive to explain how the bridge or palace were built. Both structures appear as enigmatic signatures of a lost engineering tradition. With much of Hasankeyf submerged under the Ilisu Dam in recent years, the chance to uncover the truth has diminished dramatically. Many caves in Hasankeyf sit extremely low, only a few meters above the Tigris, and some are now completely submerged beneath the newly formed reservoir. Why would ancient people carve caves so close to the water when they could easily build higher to avoid flooding? Some theories suggest these caves were part of an ancient hydraulic system for water storage or flow regulation. Others believe they were ritual chambers dedicated to water deities or food storage locations where temperature remained stable. Without written records, their true purpose remains another unanswered mystery of Hasankeyf. After the completion of the Ilisu Dam, most of ancient Hasankeyf was flooded. Hundreds of archaeological sites were never excavated, and thousands of artifacts never studied, all submerged within a short period. Many experts believe some of the most crucial clues about the underground network, ancient engineering, and even prehistoric human activity now lie irretrievably beneath the water. Unexplored tunnels, unidentified settlements, and fragments of lost knowledge may rest beneath the reservoir. Perhaps even the answers to how the Artukid Bridge and Palace were constructed. Some independent studies suggest Hasankeyf may have been inhabited since the Stone Age, possibly near the same time frame as Göbekli Tepe. If true, Hasankeyf would not merely be a medieval or Roman-era city, but one of the oldest continuously inhabited human settlements on Earth. Although this theory is not officially confirmed, scattered archaeological evidence, from stone tools to eroded cave layers, suggests extremely early human occupation. The repeated expansion and reuse of caves across dozens of generations makes precise dating difficult, enveloping Hasankeyf in a haze of historical uncertainty. Hasankeyf, a cave city, is not just an ancient settlement. It is a vast archive of unsolved mysteries spanning architecture, geology, engineering, and human history. Among all these enigmas, the Artukid Stone Bridge and the Cliffside Palace remain the focal points, clear evidence that ancient builders may have possessed technical knowledge far more advanced than modern narratives assume. Amid millennia-old caves, disappearing tunnels, and structures that defy explanation, Hasankeyf continues to challenge every theory, forcing humanity to ask, do we truly understand our own past? Al-Karak Castle Ridge Fortification, standing on a narrow mountain ridge in Jordan, has long been considered one of the most inexplicable military structures of the medieval period. Built on a long, sloping, extremely thin strip of land, the fortress appears to cling to the mountain's spine, defying all conventional construction rules. The engineers of the 12th century chose an almost impossible location: unstable ground, constantly slanted surfaces, and a width barely sufficient to host walls and architectural blocks weighing thousands of tons. What especially perplexes modern researchers is that the Crusader builders managed to create a structure so durable that it survived 9 centuries of earthquakes, wars, destruction, and reconstruction. Yet the greatest mystery is not the visible part of the fortress. It lies underground, where a subterranean system exists that many archaeologists call a technology beyond the capability of its era. Why do you think they chose such a dangerous and seemingly impossible location to build the fortress? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Among all the enigmas of Al-Karak, the 3-tier underground structure is the most debated and the clearest demonstration of the builder's extraordinary engineering ability. Historians believe the Crusaders may have built upon an older foundation, though no definitive evidence exists. Instead, numerous arches, corridors, stone columns, and large chambers show precise workmanship, as if influenced by measurement techniques hundreds of years ahead of their time. The underground levels are not simple storage cellars. They form a complex system including granaries, stables, armories, hidden guard posts, and interlinked passageways capable of bearing immense loads. The distribution of weight across the 3 stone levels indicates that the designers deeply understood the terrain, a narrow, uneven ridge, yet still achieved structural balance. The stone vaults do not simply bear downward pressure, they also redistribute forces laterally across the ridge, something modern engineers argue cannot be accidental. What makes this 3-level system even more astonishing is its geometric precision. Some corridors stretch tens of meters with virtually zero deviation. The curves of the vaults are consistent, the spacing between columns symmetrical, and many load-bearing platforms are cut into clean, defined shapes that seem far beyond the crude chisels and iron tools thought to exist at the time. Some experts even suggest that the Crusaders had access to a sophisticated form of measurement or tools that have since been lost, or that they inherited and adapted a technology we still do not understand. Compared to other structures of the same era, European fortresses, Jerusalem fortifications, or Levantine military architecture, Al-Karak's 3 underground levels, surpassed them all in organization, load distribution, and geometric consistency. This absurd level of sophistication has led archaeologists to believe the underground system was not merely storage, but rather a mechanical defensive complex whose functions surpassed the needs of a simple mountaintop fortress. Another striking feature is the set of ramps leading to the deepest tier. These ramps are not the typical broken angular staircases found in other medieval fortresses. Instead, they are long, smooth, evenly sloped paths seemingly designed for moving heavy goods or even small wheeled carts, something almost unheard of in medieval fortification design. The ramps are wide enough for 2 or 3 people to walk side by side, and their surfaces are unusually smooth compared to hand-cut stone. Some sections show signs of deliberate grinding or polishing, raising questions about their original purpose: transporting heavy equipment, a transit route for military carts, or some type of infrastructural technology undocumented in existing historical records. Beyond this, the 3 underground levels contain many areas that modern researchers cannot explain. Some chambers are far too large for simple storage. Others lie in inconvenient, deeply recessed parts of the ridge, offering no obvious strategic advantage. Certain rooms are sealed with walls, built in a style entirely different from that of the Crusaders, possibly older. This has led to theories that multiple architectural layers exist beneath Al-Karak, representing successive civilizations, and that the current underground system may simply be an expanded version of an even older complex. In this context, the fortress above ground appears to be only the tip of the iceberg. It too contains mysteries, massive stone blocks fitted together with such precision that they resemble Nabatean or Roman construction rather than Crusader work. Some walls show signs of heat deformation as though exposed to extreme temperatures far exceeding medieval siege fires or boiling oil. The multi-layered defensive structure above ground integrates seamlessly with the underground network, forming what modern military engineers describe as being 3 to 4 centuries ahead of the architectural norms of its time. Researchers have discovered that Al-Karak sits precisely along an ancient signaling line connecting Shobak Castle and Montreal Castle, suggesting it once served as a hub in an advanced communication network, possibly predating the Crusader era. This strengthens the theory that the fortress's foundation and underground complex may belong to an earlier Levantine civilization, with the Crusaders merely repurposing what already existed. Another famous mystery is how Al-Karak endured a 7-month siege in recorded history despite having insufficient visible storage capacity to feed its defenders for such a duration. Experts suspect the presence of undiscovered chambers or supply tunnels leading out through the cliffs. Indeed, many underground passages were intentionally sealed with stone or mortar during the Ottoman Mamluk or later periods. This suggests that previous inhabitants deliberately concealed parts of the fortress, and even today, modern surveys have not been able to access them. Taken together, these elements form a picture of Al-Karak Castle Ridge fortification as a structure that defies medieval engineering logic. When examining the 3 underground levels, with their precision, astounding load-bearing ability, optimized design, and sophistication far beyond the era, many scholars conclude that either the Crusaders possessed unusual knowledge or they inherited a structure already out of time. Although official history records no advanced engineering civilization in this region before the 12th century, the underground evidence tells a different story. One of architectural knowledge buried by time, yet still visible in every arch, every corridor, and every perfectly balanced stone. Today, Al-Karak remains one of the most debated fortresses in the Middle East. Each underground level is a layer of mystery, yet to be deciphered, and each mark on the stone walls serves as a reminder that ancient knowledge may have been far greater than what recorded history suggests. The fortress towers proudly above the landscape, but its hidden depths are what transform it into a living enigma, a 3-tier subterranean structure ahead of its time, beyond medieval technological comprehension, and possibly the remnant of a forgotten intellectual legacy humanity has yet to rediscover. Herodium Hill Fortress has always astonished archaeologists and historians with the sheer irrationality of its ambition. An artificial mountain raised by King Herod the Great himself in the arid Judean desert, and atop it, a perfectly circular fortress housing a lavish palace, Roman-style bathhouses, courtyards, spiral walkways, and surrounding watchtowers. The entire structure resembles a private kingdom set on the summit of a man-made monument, a proclamation of power from a king notorious for brutality, extravagance, and a remarkably sharp architectural vision. Yet the visible portion of Herodium is only the tip of the iceberg. What makes this site one of the greatest mysteries of ancient architecture lies in the hidden layers beneath it, especially its strange, sophisticated water system that remains nearly impossible to fully explain with the technology available 2,000 years ago. This is what transformed Herodium from a fortress into a symbol that continues to challenge modern science. How do you think the ancients were able to channel and store such massive amounts of water in a fortress located in the middle of the Judean desert? Did they possess a lost engineering technology? Or is there another secret we still haven't uncovered? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Herod did not merely want to build a fortress. He wanted to create a mountain of his own, a symbol that future generations would be forced to remember. Instead of choosing a naturally suitable site, he ordered workers to pile earth transport stones and sculpt an entire conical mountain in the desert. This process required tens of thousands of laborers, countless loads of soil and rock, and a refined understanding of how to shape such a massive structure so it would remain stable under the weight of a royal complex. Many archaeologists call Herodium Herod's fabricated mountain and believe its construction redefined the limits of ancient engineering. This artificial mountain has not only remained intact for 2 millennia, but preserved its distinctive form, leading many specialists to suspect Herod's builders employed stabilization techniques we still don't fully understand. And just when one thinks this is the most impossible part of Herodium, beneath it lies a labyrinth of tunnels, passages, and subterranean chambers stretching like a maze. This network of tunnels, many of which were later used during the Bar Kokhba revolt, reveals that Herodium was not only a palace and fortress, but also a strategic hub prepared for extreme circumstances. What is peculiar is that certain tunnels are so straight and level that they surpass typical ancient stone-cutting methods. One expert remarked that if their true age were unknown, one might mistake them for medieval or even early modern constructions. Some bold hypotheses propose that Herod might have built upon much older underground structures that predated the fortress itself. However, no evidence yet confirms this. The only certainty is that Herodium was not created from a single architectural plan. It resembles a multi-layered structure, each layer holding new mysteries. But all these elements, the artificial mountain fortress palace and tunnels, were merely the stage set for its greatest secret, the one that makes Herodium a challenge for every researcher, the strange water system functioning in the Judean desert. This goes far beyond typical Roman or Herodian hydraulic engineering. Herodium stands in an arid region atop an artificial mountain, exposed to relentless heat, far from any natural water source. And yet Herod constructed a massive artificial lake, underground reservoirs, long-distance aqueducts running through hilly terrain, and storage chambers so deep that natural light never reaches them. Water wasn't just transported here, it was stored in quantities sufficient for royal life, military activity, ceremonial use, and even wartime endurance. What astonishes archaeologists most is the precision of these water channels. The aqueducts span many kilometers from the Bethlehem region, with almost no deviation of even a few millimeters in gradient, an essential condition for water to flow continuously. Yet the builders of the time had no laser measuring tools, no terrain scanning equipment, no modern machinery. So how did they create a hydraulic network so advanced that modern engineers must run computer simulations to understand it? This question has never been satisfactorily answered. Even scholars specializing in Herodian architecture admit, we know they did it, but we do not know the exact technique. The reservoirs at Herodium also differ from typical Roman cisterns. Excavations revealed chambers completely sunken into the mountain, coated with a special waterproof plaster, and interconnected by narrow shafts descending like wells. Some reservoirs hold massive volumes of water, while others stand isolated, suggesting special functions still unknown. One theory suggests Herod wanted Herodium to become a man-made oasis demonstrating his power, the ability to create life in a place where life should not exist. Others interpret the artificial lake symbolically as a reflection of Herod's vision of an ideal kingdom, one he hoped would endure long after his body crumbled to dust. Mentioning Herod's body leads to another enigma: his tomb. In 2007, Ehud Netzer announced he had discovered Herod's true burial site on the slope of Herodium. Though the discovery caused a sensation, it also raised many questions. The tomb was heavily damaged, contained no remains, and offered no definitive proof that Herod was truly buried there. Some experts argue the site fails to match Herod's personality, a ruler obsessed with grandeur. Others believe Herod's real tomb lies deeper within the subterranean system, in areas still unexcavated. Thus, despite an official announcement, the mystery of Herod's final resting place hovers like a shadow over Herodium. More than a residence fortress or burial site, Herodium stands as a proclamation of power, a monument to Herod's absolute dominance over nature and destiny. The artificial mountain, intricate tunnels, perfect circular fortress, and above all, the water system in the desert combine to create a structure not only ahead of its time, but beyond the technological assumptions we assign to ancient civilizations. No other regional construction displays such ambition. And what deepens the mystery is that even after 2,000 years, humanity still does not fully understand Herodium. Questions about construction techniques, the origins of certain subterranean features, the formula of the waterproof plaster, and the impossible precision of the aqueducts all remain unanswered. Today, when viewed from afar, Herodium resembles a carved-down mountain, as though sculpted by a giant hand into a perfect cone placed in the desert. But stepping inside reveals layer after layer of secrets: circular walls, spiral corridors, ancient stairways, ventilation shafts, and finally, the heart of this enigma, the reservoirs and channels whose sophistication remains difficult to replicate even with modern technology. Perhaps that is why Herodium continues to haunt scholars. It is not merely a structure, but a challenge from the past, questioning what ancient people truly knew, what they were capable of, and how they understood their world. Among the steep cliffs of the Tianshui region in Gansu, the Maijishan Grottoes rise as a surreal wonder, a place where humans seem to have spoken directly with stone, with wind, and with time itself. Seen from afar, Maijishan resembles a colossal natural tower carved into the sky, but as one approaches, they are stunned to realize that the entire cliff has been hollowed out into hundreds of caves, each corner containing within it the mysteries of more than a millennium of civilization and faith. Yet what makes Maijishan completely different from all other Buddhist statue cave complexes in the world is the nearly unbelievable existence of over 7,200 Buddha statues made entirely of clay, crafted with such precision that without seeing them firsthand, it is difficult to believe they are not carved from solid stone. These statues stand, sit, smile, meditate, their garments flowing softly like real fabric, every strand of hair, every eyelid crease, every expression rendered with such lifelike delicacy that one must ask, how could people more than 1,000 years ago, without modern technology, without durable materials, create such a fragile yet enduring artistic treasure? What do you think allowed more than 7,200 clay Buddha statues at Maijishan to survive for over 1,000 years while remaining unbelievably detailed? Do you believe it was a lost technique, a unique blend of cultural influences, or something even more mysterious? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Upon entering Maijishan, the most haunting aspect is not the size or number of statues, but the living energy radiating from these clay figures. Clay is a soft material, prone to cracking, rotting, and weather damage. Yet here, amid harsh mountain conditions, humid in the rainy season and dry in winter, the statues have retained their form, color, and details with astonishing resilience. Moreover, they do not feel rough like typical clay. Instead, they possess a refinement that even stone struggles to rival. This shows that the ancients possessed a clay mixing technique so extraordinary that modern humans cannot fully reconstruct it. Archaeologists have attempted to analyze the materials, but the results remain vague. Clay mixed with straw plant fibers and even organic components that are hard to identify. Yet this very formula kept the statues from decaying for over 1,000 years. The question arises, who passed down this technique? Did it originate from central China, from the Silk Road, or from civilizations long vanished? Many scholars believe the statue's sophistication stems not only from technique, but also from a transcendent artistic mindset. The craftsmen of Maijishan did not merely perform religious work, they seemed to recreate life itself. These statues are not soulless religious templates. They carry human traits, emotions, contemplation, subtle sadness in the eyes, and gentle compassion in their smiles. When sunlight enters the caves, the shadows of the statues spill over the earthen walls, making viewers feel as though they've stepped into another world. A world where ancient Buddhas rise from stone, emerging from some distant dimension. Many visitors report sensing the gaze of the statues, as if a living presence hides beneath the clay surface. This deepens the enigma. Did the artisans truly observe living human models to capture such detail? And if so, how did they access subjects when Maijishan lies in such rugged, isolated terrain? Another mystery lies in the fact that the clay statues are not uniform in style. Some have long, refined faces, reminiscent of Indian aesthetics linked to the Gandhara school. Some feature large eyes and high noses, reflecting Central Asian influences. Others exhibit the round, gentle forms typical of traditional Chinese art. This mixture indicates that Maijishan was once a major crossroads of cultural exchange along the Silk Road. Yet questions remain if the artisans came from different regions. How did they standardize clay techniques, shaping methods, and preservation practices? Why is Maijishan the only site with such a large number of clay statues of extraordinary craftsmanship, while others like Mogao or Longmen focus primarily on stone carving? A deeper look into the statues reveals another oddity. Many retain their original colors, reds, yellows, blues, despite being painted with natural minerals that usually fade quickly. In severe weather conditions, such pigments should flake off within decades. But here the colors cling firmly, even appearing vibrant. Art restoration experts have attempted to replicate Maijishan's painting technique, but cannot achieve similar longevity. This has led some to suspect that the ancients knew of a special binding substance, a lost secret. Some scholars even speculate that the technique may have come from a mobile guild of artisans who carried esoteric knowledge across generations, existing only for a brief historical moment before disappearing without a trace. But material and technique are only half the story. Even more astonishing is the number. 7,200 statues are not just a statistic, they represent a creative effort spanning centuries. Many statues stand only a few dozen centimeters tall, while others reach several meters. Each cave contains its own artistic language, as though each group of craftsmen expressed its individuality while still contributing to a larger whole. This implies some organizational structure, yet no documents survive describing management or workshop systems. No one knows who the architects were, who designed the iconography, or who envisioned the entire complex. Maijishan exists as a fully realized masterpiece, without a known author, a rarity in human history. Archaeologists have uncovered yet another oddity. Many statues contain internal frames of thin wood or bamboo, yet these have not decayed after more than a millennium. Wood should rot in humidity, yet here it remains intact. Perhaps the secret lies in how the ancients treated their materials with natural biological methods we no longer understand. Some theorize that the statues survive because of Maijishan's unique shape, a haystack-shaped mountain with stable airflow and humidity conditions ideal for long-term preservation. But these are only guesses. No definitive studies confirm them. Walking along the wooden cliffside walkways, one feels a stark contrast. On one side, unforgiving nature. On the other, the gentle softness of clay sculptures. This contrast does not conflict, it blends into a sacred ambience. Maijishan seems not merely a place for statue making, but a place where humans entrusted their belief in the endurance of spirit beyond material limits. And this deepens the mystery. How could people with primitive tools possess such unwavering faith that they created a colossal, delicate masterpiece? Despite danger and time, today, despite scientific advancement and archaeological progress, Maijishan remains silent. The clay statues sit quietly smiling, gazing down at passing visitors as if they know something we will never reach. Perhaps the true secret of Maijishan does not lie in technique, material, or artistry, but in what the ancients embedded into the stone, a language beyond time, a message that only those who truly listen may understand. On the summit of a rugged mountain in southern Colorado, where relentless winds sweep across the heights and natural stone pillars rise like two colossal blades piercing the sky, Chimney Rock, Pueblo, stands as an enigmatic imprint of the ancestral Puebloan civilization. It is not an ordinary village, nor a defensive fortress. Chimney Rock carries a purpose far beyond survival. Everything left on the mountaintop, the crumbling stone walls, the massive architectural platforms, the structures aligned upward toward the sky, reveals that this was once a ceremonial and astronomical center where ancient people observed one of nature's rarest celestial events, the major lunar standstill, the 18.6-year cycle of the moon. In the modern era, observing this phenomenon with precision requires advanced measuring equipment and astronomical calculations. Yet more than a millennium ago, the Pueblo people not only recognized this rare cycle, but also constructed an entire architectural complex atop a mountain to track it with near-perfect accuracy. This makes Chimney Rock one of the most impressive astronomical sites of ancient North America. Why do you think the ancient Pueblo people were able to calculate and build an entire architectural complex to observe such a rare phenomenon as the major lunar standstill? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The location of Chimney Rock, Pueblo lies in a place that many modern observers would consider entirely unsuitable for habitation, high, cold, dry, and lacking stable water sources. But if their purpose was not long-term living, but rather creating a place to connect with the heavens, then the mountaintop was the ideal position. From here, the entire Piedra Canyon opens below, and more importantly, the two natural rock pillars, known as the Twin Spires, towering stone columns rising tens of meters, become markers seemingly positioned by nature for astronomical observation. When standing at the correct point within the Great House Pueblo or other ceremonial viewing locations, ancient observers could witness the moon rising between these two pillars precisely during the major lunar standstill. Every 18.6 years, the moon would appear in the narrow gap between the pillars, creating a breathtaking spectacle that surely carried profound spiritual meaning for those who built this place with such dedication. No one knows how the Pueblo people calculated a cycle lasting nearly 2 decades, a cycle that even modern astronomers require long-term tracking systems and precise computations to anticipate. It appears that the ancients did not merely observe the sky, they understood it. They built architecture as if it were a living astronomical instrument, operating not with metal or gears, but with stone light and the eternal movement of celestial bodies. The mystery deepens with the existence of the Great House Pueblo, a structure far too large and too refined for such a harsh mountaintop environment. Archaeological evidence shows that the Great House exhibits the architectural style of Chaco Canyon, the powerful cultural center located more than 140 kilometers away. This raises a question: was Chimney Rock an astronomical outpost of the Chacoans? If so, then they did not choose this location for its resources or defensibility, but for its irreplaceable astronomical value. Transporting hundreds of tons of stone timber and materials up a steep mountain seems almost impossible. Yet if this complex played a crucial role in monitoring a lunar cycle essential to religious practices, then a monumental construction effort becomes fully understandable. The Chacoans may have viewed the major lunar standstill as a sacred marker determining agricultural seasons, rituals, or major societal transitions. The moments when the moon rose between the twin spires may have been the time for grand ceremonies when hundreds of pilgrims from distant regions gathered to witness the light of the gods. But the mystery does not lie solely in astronomical observation. Many studies show that Chimney Rock was not a long-term settlement. There are no signs of continuous farming, no water system, and no evidence of daily life over extended periods. This means the site was used cyclically, perhaps only during significant years of the lunar cycle. During these periods, the Pueblo people would come here, perform rituals, observe the celestial event, and then leave. Such a usage pattern reinforces the idea that Chimney Rock was not a simple settlement, but a sacred site, a ceremonial center connected more to the sky than the earth. The ancients may have interpreted celestial events as messages from the divine, and Chimney Rock was the one place where those messages could be read. The combination of natural and artificial design made this site a perfect astronomical observatory, precise, meaningful, and culturally profound. Even more strangely, construction phases at Chimney Rock appear to align with astronomical events. Some structures date to periods coinciding with past major lunar standstill occurrences, suggesting that each 18.6-year cycle may have motivated expansions or renovations. It is as though the moon's rhythm became the construction calendar for the entire complex. This raises one of the biggest questions. Did the Pueblo people possess astronomical knowledge far beyond what the technological capabilities of their era should allow? Or did they inherit this understanding from an older tradition now lost to history? Whatever the case, the truth remains clear. Building Chimney Rock Pueblo and aligning it with a celestial event occurring only once every 19 years required generational patience and a long-term knowledge system rarely seen in prehistoric cultures. On a broader level, the major lunar standstill at Chimney Rock is not merely a scientific phenomenon. It reflects the deep spiritual bond between the Pueblo people, the land, and the sky. They did not observe the moon simply to measure time. They watched it to understand the world and their role within it. When the moon rose directly between the twin spires, it was not only an astronomical occurrence, it was a moment of celestial earthly convergence when the physical and spiritual worlds touched. That moment gave Chimney Rock its purpose. That moment inspired hundreds of people to climb the mountain, carry materials upward, and build structures not for living, but for meaning. And that moment transformed the site into one of the greatest archaeological mysteries of North America. Another layer to the mystery is the abrupt abandonment of the site. Around the mid-12th century, Chimney Rock was deserted rapidly, yet shows no signs of conflict or fire. Some researchers speculate that climate change weakened the Chakwa network, causing distant ceremonial outposts like Chimney Rock to lose relevance. Others believe disruptions in ritual cycles or shifts in religious structure may have led to its disuse. Regardless of the reason, the abandonment left Chimney Rock as an unfinished record, a story never fully told. The entire community vanished, but the two stone pillars remained waiting for the next lunar cycle, as if hoping the ancient people might return to complete a forgotten ceremony. Today, archaeologists, astronomers, and visitors all arrive at Chimney Rock with the same question: how did an ancient civilization achieve such astronomical precision? And why did they invest immense effort into a monumental structure designed to observe a phenomenon occurring nearly 2 decades apart? There is no definitive answer, but one undeniable truth remains. Chimney Rock Pueblo represents exceptional observational skill, profound spiritual conviction, and a fusion of intellect and devotion far beyond what we typically attribute to prehistoric cultures. It stands as evidence that the ancient world was not primitive, but patient, methodical, and deeply connected to the sky in ways modern society is only beginning to appreciate. And when standing beneath the moonlight, gazing through the narrow gap between the twin spires, one can almost feel what the Pueblo people once felt, that here on this lonely mountaintop, the universe spoke directly to humanity through naked eyes and unwavering belief. Chimney Rock, Pueblo, is not merely a site. It is a reminder that ancient knowledge can be so refined and profound that it astonishes even the modern world. In the heart of the ancient city of Susa, once the center of power of the Achaemenid Persian Empire, lies one of the most mysterious treasures of ancient history, the Susa Apadana Foundation. Tablets, gold and silver tablets, buried deep beneath the floor of the Apadana Palace, not meant to be displayed to the public, but to rest silently in darkness for more than 2.5 millennia, like a hidden message addressed to the gods, to posterity, and to the destiny of the empire itself. When archaeologists discovered them, the astonishment did not come merely from their material value or the trilingual inscriptions, but from their almost perfect state of preservation, a mystery that challenges all understanding of metal chemistry and environmental conditions. Why could gold and silver materials, known to scratch easily and to react to oxidation, survive time and historical upheaval nearly intact? From that question, an entire world of enigmas began to unfold. What do you think allowed these gold and silver tablets to survive almost perfectly for more than 2,500 years? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The ancient Persians did not build the Apadana Palace like ordinary empires. They buried deep within its foundations tablets of pure gold and refined silver materials so precious that in antiquity even royalty seldom used them for ritual purposes, let alone for objects meant to be hidden underground. They knew no one would ever see those tablets. So why do it? Many scholars believe that the Achaemenids did not see these metallic deposits as decoration, but as a form of foundation oath, a ritual designed to seal the king's authority into the earth, where the god Ahura Mazda and the celestial powers could bear witness. When Darius I inscribed the texts onto gold and silver, he was essentially declaring that this palace, along with his power, must endure forever, regardless of time. The inscriptions on the tablets were written in Old Persian Elamite, an Akkadian 3 languages representing 3 distinct cultural worlds. This raises a question for modern scholars: is this merely a construction document or a subtle political proclamation that the Persian Empire ruled over all peoples from east to west, from the highlands of Bactria to the burning plains of Babylon? Some researchers argue that the choice of 3 languages was no coincidence. It was Darius's way of sending a coded message about the unity of the world under Persian order. But a deeper mystery remains. Why are there no versions in Egyptian or Babylonian languages of major regions within the empire? Were other tablets lost, stolen, or never discovered? This absence creates a puzzling void that has yet to be explained. In the inscription, Darius lists the origins of materials brought from across the world: cedar wood from Lebanon, lapis lazuli from Sogdiana, gold from Bactria, ivory from Nubia, stones transported from the Zagros highlands, and many other resources spanning the geography of a vast ancient world. This is not merely a construction report, but resembles a map of power, a statement that the resources of the world converged upon his palace. But why describe each material in detail Some scholars believe this reflects the Persians' deep understanding of trade networks stretching from India to the Mediterranean, hinting at logistical capabilities far more advanced than commonly assumed. Yet the most astonishing aspect for modern observers is not the political message nor the symbolism of power, but a scientific mystery. How could these gold and silver tablets remain almost uncorroded after more than 2,500 years buried beneath the ground, exposed to seasonal floods, humidity, the destruction wrought by Alexander the Great, and centuries of abandonment under layers of debris? They nevertheless emerged with sharp edges, gleaming surfaces, and cuneiform characters so crisp they seemed recently engraved. This baffled archaeologists and metallurgists alike. One hypothesis suggests that the Achaemenids possessed metallurgical techniques far ahead of their time. Evidence indicates they could refine silver to an extraordinary degree of purity, making it much more stable underground. Gold, naturally resistant to corrosion, should not tarnish, but the fact that the tablets did not deform or dull even under the immense pressure of soil for thousands of years is puzzling. Some scholars believe the ancient Persians performed a special ritual treatment before burial, perhaps a sacred purification using natural antioxidants or organic substances, combined with the belief that blessed gold and silver would gain a supernatural resistance to decay. A bolder theory proposes that the substructure of the Apadana Palace accidentally created a natural preservation chamber, where humidity, temperature, and soil chemistry combined to produce a rare environment that prevented oxidation for millennia. If true, this might not be accidental at all. The Achaemenids may have intentionally chosen the burial site using ancient knowledge we have not yet deciphered. The symmetrical placement of foundation pits, gold on one side, silver on the other, suggests this was not simple construction, but a ritual aligned with principles of sacred geography, geology, and cosmology. The mystery deepens when the tablets are viewed as the DNA of the empire, a foundational document recording not just architecture, but the ideological core of Persian kingship. Much of the text does not describe technical aspects, but recounts divine sanction, cosmic order, and Darius's legitimacy as King of Kings. This tone resembles religious, apocalyptic literature more than administrative writing. Why would a foundation oath carry such sacred weight? Perhaps because these tablets served as spiritual guarantors of the palace's eternal protection under divine guardianship. If so, their miraculous preservation may be understood not only through science, but also through the worldview of the ancients. Objects placed correctly with proper ritual were believed to become immortal. When the Apadana was destroyed by Alexander the Great, many precious tablets were looted or melted down. This raises unanswerable questions. How much of the original foundation oath survives? How many tablets were lost forever? And might some missing tablets have contained even more astonishing messages? Finally, another layer of mystery. Thanks to these trilingual tablets, modern scholars were able to decipher Old Persian cuneiform. They functioned as a kind of Persian Rosetta Stone, enabling linguistic comparison among three completely different writing systems. Thus, the tablets were not only texts, but keys, unlocking knowledge of civilizations long extinct. Today, under museum lights, the gold and silver of the Susa Apadana foundation tablets still shine with undeniable beauty, but what makes them truly extraordinary is the unanswered question that lingers: why, across destruction, time, war, and nature, did they survive almost intact? Was it geological accident, lost, metallurgical knowledge, or a sacred ritual we no longer comprehend? Each hypothesis opens a new door, and behind every door lies another layer of mystery. And it is precisely this mystery that makes the Susa Apadana foundation tablets not just archaeological artifacts, but witnesses to ancient knowledge that far surpasses modern understanding. Bandelier Frijoles Canyon cliff dwellings is one of the clearest examples of the adaptability and creativity of the ancestral Puebloans, and the greatest mystery of this place lies in its most fundamental structure, the cave houses carved directly into the vertical cliffs of Frijoles Canyon. In a land where soft volcanic tuff stretches across tall canyon walls, the ancient Pueblo people turned the natural properties of this stone into a construction advantage, creating hundreds of cavats, living chambers carved into the rock with rudimentary tools. What do you think allowed the ancient Pueblo people to carve these incredibly precise cliff dwellings? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The strange thing is not that they were able to carve the rock, but the precision of the process. Each cave entrance is positioned at nearly the same height. Each interior floor is flattened with remarkable consistency, and each corner and surface shares a uniform shape, as if the ancient craftsmen possessed deep knowledge of measurement and balance that history never recorded. When stepping into a cavati, one easily notices that the walls are not merely scraped by a hand, but appear to have been shaped to a certain standard. Some cavatis extend so deeply that sunlight barely touches them, yet their rock surfaces remain smooth and even, without the distortion typically seen when working in low-light conditions. This has caused archaeologists to wonder, did the Pueblo people have lighting techniques, measuring tools, or templates that have been lost? Or did they simply possess a level of handcraft skill that the modern world cannot replicate using similar primitive tools? Stranger still, many cavats lie in extremely dangerous positions, carved into cliffs so steep that there are no natural footholds. To create these chambers, they must have used wooden ladders or improvised scaffolding, but all traces of such structures have vanished after centuries of wind, rain, and erosion. That a prehistoric community could build dozens of stone rooms positioned tens of meters above ground while still maintaining accuracy in alignment has led many researchers to conclude that the Pueblo people may have possessed a labor organization system far more advanced than historical records suggest. Inside the cavats, each room is shaped like a deliberate living chamber, with low stone benches, flat walls, and wall niches positioned with clear intent, indicating that these were not temporary shelters or crude hideouts. Each chamber has a logical structure suitable for the daily life of a family or small group. This becomes even more impressive when considering that many cavats were built in continuous horizontal rows, forming a kind of cliffside apartment complex connected by ladders. The entire layout demonstrates careful planning in spatial distribution, something difficult to achieve when the only tools available were stone bone and natural materials. The cavats were further integrated with multi-story stone and wood houses constructed at the base of the cliffs. This link between cave houses and built houses shows the Pueblo people's sophistication in environmental optimization. The stone caves provided natural insulation, protecting against winter cold and summer heat, while the external stone houses added extra space for communal activities. The combination of the two forms created a unique settlement model found only at Bandelier. But what fascinates researchers most is the almost unbelievable precision in the construction of the cavats. Some of them have nearly perfect circular floor plans, stable diameters, vertical walls, and gently curved ceilings of remarkable uniformity. Even when attempting to reconstruct one using only stone tools, modern experts cannot recreate such a chamber within a reasonable time frame. This has led to hypotheses that the Pueblo people may have used heat to soften the tuff before carving it. However, there is no evidence of large fires or sufficient charcoal to support this theory. Another hypothesis suggests they may have used water to weaken the stone before working it, but this cannot explain the smoothness and consistency of the surfaces. Some archaeologists have proposed that the Pueblo may have used rudimentary measurement systems based on sunlight plant fiber strings or marking systems, but the evidence is still insufficient. And if such knowledge did exist, it may have disappeared when the Pueblo people migrated away from Frijoles Canyon in the 16th century. Going deeper into the Chavate's numerous small cut marks, drilled holes, and shallow grooves appear along the walls, further emphasizing the sophistication of their carving techniques. These small holes may have been used to anchor wooden beams, hang objects, or mark the direction for expanding the chamber. But to many experts, they illustrate that the creation of cavats was not random. It was meticulously planned. Each small cut may have served as a measurement point, a reference mark, or a construction symbol that modern people can no longer understand. One large cavat even contains perfectly straight horizontal cut lines, something extremely difficult to achieve with primitive tools. These lines may indicate that the Pueblo carved the stone layer by layer with fixed thickness, creating a construction plane inside a confined space, a technique that even modern craftsmen admit is hard to achieve without precise measuring instruments. Thus, many researchers believe that cave carving at Bandelier was not merely the work of skilled hands. Rather, it was the product of a combination of observational knowledge, generational experience, and highly refined measurement methods that modern science has yet to decipher. The mystery deepens when considering the sheer number of cavats, hundreds across the region. This means the Pueblo people did not perform this feat once, but repeatedly across generations, maintaining astonishing consistency and accuracy. In many places, cavatis are stacked vertically, creating an ancient vertical apartment complex. This required planning in both vertical and horizontal dimensions. Deciding the exact position, depth, and height of each chamber was a true engineering achievement. The working conditions must also be acknowledged. Climbing cliff faces, transporting tools, and maintaining balance while carving stone would have been enormous challenges. Yet the results show remarkable harmony. Nothing looks uneven, distorted, or chaotic. On the contrary, everything is orderly and refined. With all this, the cavatis of Bandelier are not just ancient dwellings. They are symbols of a folk engineering intelligence far beyond what history records. They raise questions that continue to puzzle archaeologists. What measurement methods did the Pueblo use? What geometric knowledge did they possess? How did they organize labor? And most importantly, why did such techniques vanish from the modern world? When the afternoon sun illuminates the cliff faces of Frijoles Canyon, highlighting the perfectly aligned cave entrances, these cavats seem to tell the story of a truly sophisticated knowledge system, a knowledge never written down by later generations. Thus, each cavate is not only a home, but also a secret, a suspended engineering riddle challenging modern understanding of our ancestors' ingenuity. Hidden behind collapsed walls and layers of scorching desert sand in the ancient city of Dura-Europos, once called the Pompeii of the Syrian desert, lies a discovery that stunned archaeologists: the Dura-Europos Mithraeum fresco ceiling. A fresco ceiling inside a small Mithras temple that contains far more information and mystery than its modest size would suggest. Mithraism was a secret religion with no scriptures, no written ritual manuals. All knowledge was transmitted orally among different ranks of initiates. Because of this, any surviving trace, even a single brushstroke, serves as a doorway into a spiritual world buried for thousands of years. Inside the cramped temple space, the fresco ceiling appears like a miniature sky filled with star-like dots, human figures, cosmic divisions, and symbols blending local artistic traditions with Roman religious thought. Yet what truly astonishes researchers is not its composition, but its color scheme. Fresh, powerful, defying time to an absurd degree. This is the very aspect that makes the ceiling one of the greatest artistic mysteries of the ancient world. What do you think truly lies behind this color-mixing technique that seems far ahead of its time? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear how you interpret this mystery. During the first examination, archaeologists assumed the vibrant colors before their eyes were the result of modern restoration. No one could believe that such brilliant reds, deep blues, bright yellows, and bold blacks could survive nearly 2 millennia in the harsh conditions of a semi-desert environment. However, when Raman spectroscopy and mineral microscopy results were published, scholars were forced to accept the truth. The pigments are entirely original, painted in the 2nd to 3rd century. Instantly, the mystery shifted from preservation to creation. How could inhabitants of a frontier town, far from being an artistic center of the Roman Empire, produce a palette both dazzling and extraordinarily durable? Researchers discovered that the pigments in the fresco were not coarse, but ground extremely finely, reaching a level of refinement comparable to those used in imperial artworks. Moreover, the mineral binder in the plaster contained components unlike any known Roman mixture, suggesting the use of a secret formula passed down within the Mithraic cult and never shared outside it. The strangeness of the colors lies not only in their durability, but in their luminosity, as if they were concentrated or heat-treated. The blue pigment, in particular the mineral blue, used across the ceiling, was the most expensive and difficult color to produce in antiquity. It is neither pure Egyptian blue nor natural ultramarine from lapis lazuli, but a rare variant likely created through carefully controlled high-temperature firing. This has led scholars to suspect that the Mithraeum's artisans may have possessed a completely lost coloring technique, possibly more advanced than those found in many artistic centers of the same era. While Roman wall paintings of similar age typically survive only as faded silvery patches, the fresco ceiling at Dura-Europos retains an astonishing brilliance, as if produced by a technologically superior pigment-making tradition. This extraordinary brightness played a crucial role in the temple's ritual atmosphere. Mithraism was a secret cult whose ceremonies took place in darkness, illuminated only by small oil lamps. Under such dim lighting, the vivid reflective pigments created the illusion that the ceiling was glowing like a living sky enveloping the worshippers. In this experience, color was not mere decoration. It functioned as a spiritual instrument, helping initiates feel they were entering another realm, one in which the soul ascended through celestial spheres toward rebirth. Without these impossibly vibrant colors, the visual and spiritual impact of Mithraic ritual would have been significantly diminished. But the colors form only one layer of the ceiling's mystery. The fresco contains numerous motifs that do not match any standard Mithraic symbols found elsewhere in Europe. Instead of the iconic bull-slaying scene, the central image of Mithraism, the Dura-Europos ceiling, depicts a symbolic starry sky with dots and human figures arranged in a pattern that does not correspond to any known astronomical system. Scholars attempted to compare the arrangement with ancient sky charts, but all attempts failed. This has led to speculation that the fresco's sky is not a physical sky, but a ritual sky, encoded with the philosophical system of the cult. Some researchers believe that the positions of its stars may symbolize ranks of initiation from Korak's Raven to Pater High Father. Strangely, several parts of the ceiling show signs of being painted over as if layers of meaning were updated through time or modified as initiates advanced in rank. Beyond the mysteries of its colors and symbols, the fresco ceiling was preserved almost miraculously. When the Sasanian army attacked in the 3rd century, Dura-Europos was buried under thick layers of sand, accidentally creating a sealed environment that protected the pigments from oxidation. As a result, when uncovered in the 20th century, the ceiling remained nearly intact, further intensifying the strangeness of its pristine colors. They did not merely survive time, they almost seemed to defy natural decay. All these elements, the astonishingly vivid colors, the lost pigment techniques, the star map that matches no real sky, the cult's secret symbolism, and the extraordinary preservation conditions make the Dura-Europos Mithraeum fresco ceiling one of the most enigmatic monuments in the archaeology of religion. It is not merely a work of art, but a coded message from the past, a relic in which each layer of color, each dot, each figure may contain fragments of a mystical worldview that vanished from human history. And among all these mysteries, the most striking and haunting of all is the color technique thousands of years ahead of its time, a brilliance that modern science still cannot fully explain. On the steep cliff face of the majestic Gwalior Fort, which has witnessed thousands of years of India's turbulent history, lies a temple statue complex, both grand and mysterious, the Gwalior Fort Cliff Temples, where ancient artisans left behind one of the most spectacular sculptural achievements ever created by human hands. At first glance, one might think that these colossal Jain statues were carved from separate stone blocks and then placed into position. But the truth is even more astonishing. They were all carved directly into the cliff itself, as though the entire mountainside were a giant tablet, waiting for time to release its sacred forms. This direct rock-cut method makes it hard to imagine how the creation process unfolded, for the statues are not only enormous, many standing as tall as multi-story buildings, but also possess smoothness, curvature, anatomical balance, and delicate facial features that even modern tools would struggle to achieve with such precision. This is the most remarkable and enigmatic aspect of the Gwalior Fort Cliff Temples, the technique of liberating the statue from the stone, executed with a level of finesse far beyond its era, which continues to puzzle archaeologists and sculptural experts today. In your opinion, how did ancient artisans manage to carve these colossal Jain statues directly into the cliff face with such extraordinary precision and sophistication, far beyond what their tools should have allowed? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe in advanced ancient techniques, exceptional craftsmanship, or is there something even more mysterious behind it? These Jain statues appear in absolute stillness, standing, sitting, meditating. But that stillness was created by millions of chisel strikes executed with a precision that defies understanding. When one looks at statues reaching nearly 17 meters in height, the question inevitably arises: how did ancient artisans, equipped only with primitive iron tools, manage to create such a flawless monolithic work without any structural scaffolding or external support? How did they ensure accurate proportions of head, torso, and legs while standing at the foot of a towering rock face and looking upward at a massive stone surface? What makes this even harder to explain is that the statues were carved using a top-down technique, requiring exact knowledge of how each upper layer of rock should be removed without damaging the form concealed beneath. A mistake of just a few centimeters at the top could destroy the entire shape below. Yet the Jain statues of Gwalior appear almost perfect, especially in the smooth contours of their faces and shoulders, as though the artisans possessed a precise three-dimensional blueprint in their minds. Some theories suggest that large scaffolding systems must have been erected from the base to the summit of the cliff, but no physical evidence or marks of such scaffolding have ever been found. Nor do ancient texts record the construction process. History remains mysteriously silent. Beyond technique, the stylistic identity of these statues is also spiritually unique, especially the Digambara tradition, in which the Tirthankaras are depicted in a state of sacred nudity, symbolizing complete detachment from all material bonds. Yet what puzzles scholars is why Gwalior contains such an extraordinarily large number of Digambara statues, far exceeding those of other major Jain centers. This has led to speculation that the site may once have been a secret meditation center or home to a stricter Jain sect that has since vanished. Each statue, with its gaze cast afar or eyes gently closed, stands not only as an artistic masterpiece, but also as a silent witness to a profound spiritual philosophy that once flourished on the slopes of Gwalior. History, however, was not kind to these statues. In the 16th century, when Mughal forces seized Gwalior, many statues were defaced, especially the heads considered the most sacred part. Strangely, even though the heads were destroyed, most of the bodies have remained nearly intact for more than half a millennium, despite being exposed to rain sandstorms and harsh temperature changes. Some geologists suspect that the sandstone used here has an unusually strong structure, while others believe that ancient artisans possessed techniques for smoothing and weatherproofing that we have yet to decipher. The fact that dozens of statues still stand firm on the cliff face, showing no major cracking or collapse despite centuries of harsh climate, remains a mystery that challenges modern understanding. Further up the mountain slope behind the large statues lie small cave shrines and ancient meditation nooks. Some of these spaces are barely large enough for a single person to sit, prompting the imagination that Jain monks once meditated here in complete solitude. But their true purpose remains debated. Were they meditation chambers, repositories for sacred texts, monk dwellings, or a form of static energy chamber used in ancient spiritual practice? No surviving records explain them, and the caves lack clear signs of habitation. This ambiguity casts an even deeper veil of mystery over the entire complex. Another mystery lies in the spatial arrangement of the statues. Viewed from above, both large and small figures appear arranged in a symmetrical grid-like pattern like a meditation matrix. Some scholars believe this arrangement was linked to yantra, the sacred geometric system of Jainism, capable of producing energetic or acoustic resonance during meditation. Others argue that the statue placements align with natural energy lines running through the cliff. Yet there is no archaeological or textual evidence to confirm these theories, leaving them as poetic but unresolved possibilities. Even the largest Mahavira statue raises scholarly questions. Its body proportions do not fully conform to traditional Jain canonical guidelines, which follow strict rules of measurement. This leads to two possibilities. Either the Gwalior artisans adhered to their own sculptural school, or the statue was modified over generations, altering its original proportions. No historical document clarifies this, and the deviation only deepens the statue's enigmatic aura. Perhaps the most perplexing issue for researchers is that no official records exist describing the construction of this entire complex. It remains unknown who designed it, who led the artisans, or how long the carving of hundreds of colossal statues took. The complex seems to have appeared quietly in history without documentation. This total absence of recorded information gives the impression that the Gwalior Fort Cliff temples were not constructed but discovered as if they had existed within the stone for millennia, simply waiting to be revealed. Today, when one stands before these towering Jain statues, especially those liberated from the rock using techniques far ahead of their time, one sees not only an artistic marvel, but senses something that transcends ordinary logic, a convergence of ancient intelligence, spiritual force, and a layer of mystery untouched by time. The Gwalior Fort Cliff Temples are not merely an archaeological site, they are an open question, a challenge posed to history, suggesting that there may once have existed techniques, ideas, and spiritual communities whose depth we are only beginning to glimpse. Deep within the vast depths of the Ihlara Gorge in Cappadocia, where towering basalt cliffs surround the Melendez River, flowing like a silver thread, lies a mysterious spiritual world that has slept for over a millennium, the Ihlara Valley hidden churches. These rock-carved churches are not only remnants of early Christianity, but also a strange fusion of architecture, spirituality, and unresolved mysteries. All of it converges within a valley nearly 100 meters deep, immersed in shadow and wind, as if time itself has forgotten this place. What do you think makes the Ihlara Valley such a sacred and mysterious place? Share your thoughts in the comments below. These churches were not built stone by stone. They were carved directly into the cliff face, monolithic, raw, and far ahead of their time. The ancient monks raised no columns and laid no mortar. They revealed the sacred spaces from the mountain itself, each chisel stroke opening a spiritual realm hidden beneath layers of rough basalt. Inside the narrow chambers lie corridors, concealed rooms, and spiral stairways drilled deep into the mountain structures whose purpose remains unknown. Some rooms are completely dark. Some tunnels lead to other sections like a miniature labyrinth, suggesting this place once served as a critical refuge during periods of Christian persecution or functioned as an underground monastic center for reclusive priests. Along the 14-kilometer stretch of the valley, more than 100 churches have been discovered, yet many of them cannot be seen from the outside. Entrances are often disguised within rock crevices, small hollows, or behind naturally eroded surfaces. Some churches are accessible only through narrow tunnels, prompting the belief that they were intentionally designed to conceal religious activities during the ongoing conflicts between the Byzantines and the Arabs. This secrecy lends Ihlara Valley the appearance of a sacred kingdom in darkness, where monks hid from the watchful eyes of earthly authorities. But the greatest mystery of Ihlara Valley does not lie in the architecture or the hidden entrances. It lies in the frescoes that are over 1,000 years old, yet remain astonishingly vibrant. Upon entering churches, such as Archaeological or Yulanla, the first thing that stops every visitor is the bright red of the holy garments, the deep blue of the angels, the sun-gold halos of the saints, all still vivid and full of life, despite the valley's harsh, natural environment. Ihlara Valley is humid, with temperatures that fluctuate drastically, and many frescoes endured centuries of smoke from those who once took shelter inside conditions that should have caused severe fading or peeling. And yet, inexplicably, many frescoes are nearly intact, leading archaeologists to ask, what materials did the ancient monks use that we still cannot reproduce today? The red pigment in churches like Archaeological is especially durable, seemingly immune to time. Some theories propose that Byzantine artists used rare minerals mixed with egg white or plant resin. But if this were true, why have frescoes elsewhere in Cappadocia deteriorated far more severely? Why is it only Ihlara Valley, a damp, dim environment, that preserves its colors so extraordinarily well? Some experts suggest that the basalt rock itself created a natural preservation chamber, shielding the frescoes from sunlight and bacteria. However, this does not explain why frescoes blackened by centuries of soot still shine through with vibrant color, as if the pigments emit their own light. Chemical analyses on small samples reveal no unusual materials, deepening the mystery. Some conservative art historians argue the phenomenon comes from exceptional technique, yet chemists insist that if such techniques existed, we should find documentation of them. But there is none. Not a single ancient text describes a unique formula for the fresco pigments of the Ihlara Valley. Some frescoes depict six-winged seraphim with an almost surreal purity of blue. Some saints are shown surrounded by golden halos that reflect light despite being merely pigments on stone. Others portray serpent demons in Ulana Church, sparking decades of debate, as this imagery is unusual for mainstream Byzantine Christianity. Symbolic scholars argue that influences from Gnostic or other esoteric traditions may have permeated the art, as circular motifs, triangles, and spirals appear repeatedly, details not found in other regional churches. Such distinctions have led many to believe Ihlara was once home to a mystical branch of Christianity where monks used imagery and color as vehicles for transmitting sacred knowledge. A closer examination of the churches reveals another oddity: asymmetric architectural layouts. Pathways curve, altar axes tilt, and some pillars lean. One theory suggests intentional symbolism that the path to salvation is winding, never straight. Another interpretation claims the asymmetry symbolizes stepping away from the earthly realm into the sacred. A more practical explanation is that carvers adjusted their work according to the natural structure of the rock. But if that were the case, why do so many churches lean in the same direction and follow similar distorted layouts? This consistency revives the idea that the asymmetry was intentional and ritualistic. Inside many churches lie secret tunnels, hidden behind altars leading to other chambers or neighboring churches. Some tunnels are too small for the average person, prompting scholars to ask, who were they for children thin monks, or were they used for ritualistic acts requiring one to crawl through a narrow space as a symbolic rebirth? Whatever the purpose, their very existence suggests that Ihlara Valley once functioned as a concealed monastic network, not merely a scattering of isolated churches. This valley, nearly 100 meters deep, is remote and difficult to access. Reaching the bottom requires descending hundreds of steps. Why then would medieval monks choose such a harsh location to build more than 100 churches? Perhaps the isolation offered safety. Perhaps the depth provided the tranquility essential to monastic life. Or perhaps this was once a spiritual center where believers sought refuge from war and persecution. The truth remains elusive to this day. All these elements, the advanced rock-hewn architecture, the extraordinary number of hidden churches, the unusual religious iconography, the secret tunnels, and especially the frescoes that defy time, have transformed the Ihlara Valley hidden churches into one of Cappadocia's greatest mysteries, a place where every stone wall, every ancient step, and every layer of pigment reminds us that there are knowledge systems, rituals, and techniques from the past that the modern world still cannot fully comprehend. And perhaps these mysteries will continue to captivate archaeologists, historians, and travelers for centuries to come. Takht-e Rostam, or the Samangan rock stupa, has long been regarded as one of the most perplexing structures for archaeologists in Afghanistan because it resembles no conventional Buddhist stupa ever built in this region or anywhere else in Asia. The first and most astonishing truth about this monument is that the entire stupa was not constructed using materials, bricks, stones, or any familiar building technique, but was created by hollowing out an enormous rock mass, transforming a natural hill into a mysterious sanctuary hidden within the mountain. This is a form of reversed architecture, where the rule of adding to shape form is replaced by removing to reveal form. And this characteristic makes Takht-e Rostam a rare masterpiece in human history, one whose grandeur exists because of what has been taken away rather than what has been added. In your opinion, what allowed an ancient civilization to hollow out an entire mountain and create the Takht-e Rostam stupa with such extraordinary precision? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. Approaching Takht-e Rostam, one often does not realize they are standing before a stupa because most of the structure lies submerged within the rock with a perfectly circular shape so precise that it seems created with modern instruments rather than ancient, rudimentary tools. From the top of the stupa to the base, the surface is smooth, the curves seamless, and the proportions symmetrical enough to prompt researchers to ask, how could ancient people create such a flawless structure solely by removing material? The stupa was not only carved into a simple circular form, but was also calculated with absolute precision to maintain balanced weight, ensuring that the rocky roof would not collapse despite the interior being hollowed out. Surrounding the stupa is a circular corridor, also carved entirely from solid rock, where ancient devotees once performed ritual circumambulation in complete darkness. No light, no windows, only the echo of footsteps and breath reverberating against the cold stone walls. Archaeologists believe that carving this corridor carried not only religious significance, but also symbolic meaning, emphasizing that the path to enlightenment is not through stepping into the light, but through journeying inward, just as the ancient artisans delved into the stone to release the form of the stupa. What makes Takht-e Rostam even more unusual is why its creators chose this method, instead of following traditional construction styles seen in other well-known Buddhist stupas. Some scholars believe they may have sought to protect the monument from natural destruction and warfare, while others think it may have served as a site for a secret form of spiritual practice, one that the monastic community did not wish outsiders to know about. However, no ancient text provides any record of such intention, leaving the true purpose of the structure shrouded in the mist of time. Venturing deeper, the system of meditation rooms and contemplative cells reveals even more mysteries. Each small room, just large enough for one person to sit cross-legged, is dispersed along the rock walls like cells in a massive stone beehive. Every meditation niche is a realm of absolute stillness, where light barely touches. The monks lived and practiced in these deep shadows, completely separated from the outside world, forming an ascetic community whose size and structure remain unknown. Notably, many meditation cells appear unfinished, rough edges, unpolished surfaces, as though the workers suddenly abandoned the site during construction. The reason why the project stopped abruptly remains unexplained, despite theories ranging from invasion and natural disaster to the decline of Buddhism in the region. Additionally, Takht-e Rostam is tied to Persian legend, with locals believing it to be the place where Rostam, the hero of the Shahnameh, held his wedding with Princess Tamina. Although unsupported by archaeological evidence, this legend adds to the monument's mystique, turning it into a crossroads of religion, culture, and mythology. Yet none of these elements overshadow the greatest mystery, the astonishingly precise rock-carving technique that far surpasses the technology expected of the era. Not only the stupa, but the entire complex, from corridors to meditation chambers, demonstrates intentional architectural mastery. The stone shows no fracturing, the cuts are uniform, the curves smooth, and the structure has remained durable for thousands of years, prompting scholars to question whether the technique truly belongs to the historical period attributed to the site. Could an ancient form of knowledge have been lost, a method of working with stone we no longer understand? Even famous rock-cut structures like the Kailasa temple or the great cave complexes of India were not executed in the same manner as Takht-e Rostam's fully carved stupa. This was not the expansion of an existing cave, it was the creation of an entire religious monument from the inside out, a form of subtractive architecture whose precision and labor requirements exceed modern imagination. The more one looks at Takht-e Rostam, the more evident it becomes that its beauty arises not from addition, but from removal. Each layer of stone cut away reveals another part of the stupa's form. Each strike of the chisel is a step toward completion. It is as though the ancient artisans were not building a monument, but releasing one that had always existed within the rock. Perhaps this is why Takht-e Rostam stands as a physical embodiment of the Buddhist philosophy of letting go. Truth is always there. One must simply remove what obscures it. Even today, standing before this completely rock-carved stupa, one does not merely face a religious monument, but a question that challenges history itself. How could an ancient community create such a flawless monument without leaving any trace of their techniques? And why did they choose to hide it within the mountain, instead of erecting it proudly under the open sky? Perhaps the answer has been buried forever by time. But that very absence makes Takht-e Rostam one of humanity's most captivating mysteries, a structure that reveals, the closer one examines it, the vast gap between what we believe we know and what ancient people were truly capable of achieving. Hidden deep within the surreal terrain of Cappadocia, where soft, tough valleys have been sculpted by wind and time into strange, otherworldly shapes, Zelve Valley emerges as one of the most ancient and mysterious rock-carved settlements ever to exist. More than a testament to human resilience in harsh conditions, the Zelve Valley rock habitats preserve countless traces of a community that once lived, worshipped, farmed, and survived inside the very bodies of the tough mountains. For more than a millennium, the inhabitants here built no houses in the traditional sense. Instead, they carved hollowed, expanded, and interconnected massive rock formations, creating a continuous and complex residential system so sophisticated that it astonishes both modern architects and archaeologists. Deep tunnels link chambers, ventilation shafts run along mountain slopes, kitchens, granaries, livestock shelters, and even monasteries and churches were all formed simply by subtracting stone. This fusion of natural formation and human ingenuity gives Zelve the appearance of a stone city engraved into the mountains, at once primitive, intricate, familiar, and profoundly mysterious. What sets Zelve apart from other valleys in Cappadocia is not only its vast residential network or its long history, but a structural phenomenon unmatched anywhere else. The fairy chimneys, natural mushroom-shaped columns, were carved completely hollow, and used as actual dwellings. This stands among the greatest enigmas and technical achievements of the Zelve Valley rock habitats because hollowing out a vertical stone column naturally formed over millions of years into a multi-level interior space requires knowledge, experience, and precision, exceeding what any medieval tools should have been capable of. At first glance, the fairy chimneys look like part of the untouched landscape, tall pillars with wide caps balanced atop narrow stems clustered across the valley. But as one approaches, it becomes astonishingly clear that many of them contain real entrances, ventilation holes, tiny staircases leading upward, and traces of long-term habitation. It is as if someone scooped out the entire interior without causing the massive capstone, often weighing several tons, to collapse. This was not work that could be completed in a few weeks or months. It demanded lifetimes, even generations, of transmitted expertise, observing how soft stone responds to pressure, choosing the exact direction of excavation, so that weight is evenly distributed and knowing precisely which areas must never be touched. What amazes researchers even more is that the people of Zelve did not carve just a few chimneys for temporary shelter. They integrated them into a fully functioning housing system, the lower level for daily living, the middle for storing food and supplies, and the upper levels for prayer meditation or watching over the valley. At night, these hollow columns would glow softly from within, like giant lanterns lit by fire, a sight which many scholars believe once held spiritual or ritual significance for the community. Even with modern stone-cutting machines, geological scanners, and 3D reconstruction tools, archaeologists still cannot determine exactly how ancient builders managed to hollow out perfectly vertical columns while maintaining absolute stability. A few degrees off, or removing too much stone at the base, would cause the entire structure to collapse instantly. Yet in Zelve, dozens of fairy chimneys were successfully transformed into complete dwellings, uncracked, uncollapsed, perfectly balanced, and still standing today. This raises difficult questions. Did the inhabitants of Zelve possess a special technique now lost, or were they simply master observers of nature, far more attuned to the language of stone and the laws of gravity than we assume? The mystery remains unresolved. Leaving the hollow chimneys behind, one enters a complex network of tunnels that run throughout the valley. Some lead to residential chambers, dozens of meters deep inside the mountain. Others open into neighboring valleys. Certain researchers have proposed that Zelve may once have been part of a larger underground refuge network that included the famous subterranean cities of Kaymaklı and Derinkuyu. Although no direct evidence has yet confirmed this, the depth and orientation of several tunnels in Zelve make the idea difficult to dismiss. If true, Zelve was not merely a rock village, it was a strategic node within a vast and still unexplored underground, defensive, and residential system. Beyond its engineering significance, Zelve is also known for its religious architecture, rock-carved churches, monasteries, and prayer chambers. Strangely unlike the fresco-filled churches of Gürüm, the churches in Zelve contain almost no painted imagery. Many scholars believe this may be evidence of the iconoclasm period, a historical phase in which Christian communities rejected religious images. If so, Zelve may once have served as a secluded spiritual center, hidden from imperial oversight. Another mystery lies in Zelve's abandonment in the mid-20th century. The official explanation cites erosion and rockfall danger, but many suspect deeper causes, shifting water sources, minor seismic activity that weaken structures, or the failure of ventilation tunnels. No records fully document the event, turning the valley's desertion into a semi-legendary story. Yet today, even without inhabitants, the Zelve Valley rock habitats remain as witnesses of the past: stone houses built without bricks, tunnels linking earth and sky, churches without frescoes, and most striking of all, the hollow fairy chimneys that have somehow stayed intact for centuries. Each of these features raises an enduring question. Were ancient peoples simply adapting to their environment, or did they understand materials, nature, and acoustics far more deeply than modern history acknowledges? Whatever the truth, Zelve leaves the unmistakable impression that something far ahead of its time once unfolded here. The hollow, mushroom-shaped structures, products of nature transformed into the heart of a settlement, stand as lasting proof of creativity and technical intuition that modern science has yet to fully explain. And within those carved voids, where soft light filters through narrow vents, one can still imagine the lives of ancient inhabitants sleeping within stone, cooking within stone, praying within stone, and gazing out at the world through a small hand-carved opening made in an age when it seemed no boundary was too great to overcome. What do you think truly caused the inhabitants of Zelve to abandon the valley? And do you believe the hollow fairy chimneys hide any lost engineering secrets we have yet to uncover? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hidden deep within the barren mountains of southern Tunisia, where the Sahara winds sweep across, leaving layers of scorching sand, Matmata appears as a separate world, a land where architecture seems to defy every known rule of traditional construction. This is not a place of brick walls built layer by layer, nor of soaring domes or towering spires reaching toward the sky. Matmata is a city of darkness of stone and of craftsmanship that modern humans struggle to explain. For here, houses are not built, they are dug straight into the earth, carved through soft rock, excavated with primitive tools, yet achieving a level of precision that astonishes today's engineers. These troglodyte dwellings, with their deep circular courtyards and evenly carved surrounding rooms, have endured for hundreds, even thousands of years, standing firm against time, climate, and our understanding of ancient technology. What do you think allowed Matmata to survive for thousands of years without collapsing? Extraordinary hand-digging techniques or some other mystery we have yet to uncover? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The ancient Berbers, the original inhabitants of Matmata, chose not to live on the surface like other civilizations. They looked at their harsh landscape, cracked hillsides, crumbly rock, and brutal climate, and decided the best way to survive was to hide themselves underground. But that decision leads to a major question: how could they dig central courtyards with diameters of 6 to 10 meters as deep as a vertical shaft, with walls that are nearly perfectly vertical, without distortion, without collapse? That is the core mystery of Matmata, a manual digging technique so precise it borders on the impossible. A group of ancient workers stood on the rocky ground with no laser measuring devices, no architectural drawings, no mechanical tools, only picks, shovels, and human strength. Yet they were still able to mark the exact position, dig straight down from the center point, and maintain an almost perfectly circular courtyard. When stepping into a troglodyte house and looking up at the flawlessly round skylight, many archaeologists have admitted it's unbelievable that this was created by hand. In reality, many courtyards have a center deviation of only a few dozen centimeters, an incredibly small margin of error for that era. The rooms carved around the courtyard are also positioned at uniform heights, evenly distributed along the circumference, creating an astonishingly symmetrical layout. Not only precise in geometry, these structures are also precise in load-bearing technique. Digging into the earth means any structural mistake could cause the walls to collapse. But the ancient Berbers seem to understand the properties of the soft rock here, a clay-stone mixture that can be easily dug when moist but becomes very hard once dry. They took advantage of this to create sturdy rooms without the need for support columns. The walls were left at just the right thickness, with a natural curvature that helped distribute pressure evenly, minimizing the risk of collapse. Some experts have even noted that the Matmata excavation technique resembles military tunnel-building methods, though here it was done on a domestic scale and with primitive tools. Even more astonishing is that the central courtyards are almost perfectly circular, the most difficult shape to produce by hand. In modern architecture, achieving such circles requires construction compasses or laser positioning. But how did the ancient Berbers do it? Some theories suggest they tied a rope to a center stake and rotated it to mark the circle. But upon deeper study, many courtyards are not only round, but have nearly vertical walls, which would be extremely difficult to maintain with rope-based marking during deep excavation. Another research group proposed that the Berbers may have used shadow measurements from the sun to determine vertical alignment and center positioning, but this remains speculation without firm evidence. While the mystery of excavation technique continues to spark debate, Matmata reveals other features that make it a unique architectural marvel. Underground construction helps combat extreme desert climate. In Tunisia, summer temperatures exceed 40 degrees Celsius, yet inside these subterranean rooms, the temperature remains around 25 degrees, a natural air conditioning system unmatched by any ancient technology. In winter, when nights turn bitterly cold, the earth retains heat, keeping the interior warm. Thus, Matmata stands as one of the most remarkable examples of human adaptation to the environment. Even more intriguing is that this architecture is not only functional, but defensive. From above, Matmata appears nearly invisible. The entire settlement is concealed beneath the earth, with only small, circular openings, visible easily mistaken for natural depressions in the rocky desert. According to local legend, this concealment helped families evade attacks, raids, and pursuit in ancient times. Before gaining wider recognition in the 20th century, Matmata was considered a lost underground village existing for centuries but missing from many maps. Deeper within this maze are secret tunnels connecting different courtyards. Residents say they use them to move safely during sandstorms or times of danger. Some scholars speculate these tunnels served as internal trade routes during periods of unrest. Yet what fascinates researchers most is not their function, but how they were carved long corridors just tall enough for a person running incredibly straight or curving with impossible smoothness. Again, the question arises, what method allowed ancient workers to dig tunnels without veering off course or hitting unstable rock? No one knows. Matmata gained global fame when Hollywood discovered it. The film crew of Star Wars: A New Hope accidentally found Matmata and chose one of the troglodyte houses as Luke Skywalker's home. The influx of visitors afterward introduced the world to a place previously unknown to nearly everyone outside the Berber community. Yet despite the spotlight, Matmata's technical mysteries remain intact. No ancient documents describe the excavation methods, no instruction manuals, no architectural plans. Everything was passed down orally, and much of it has vanished with time. Even today, many Berber families still live in these dugout homes. They inherit their ancestors' techniques, yet even they cannot fully explain how their predecessors created such large, deep courtyards without collapse. Some elders say their ancestors had a way of reading the earth, understanding soil softness, humidity, and wind direction to choose the right digging location. But that alone cannot account for the extraordinary precision of the structures. Matmata is more than a place of residence. It is a symbol of extraordinary ingenuity, a testament that ancient humans sometimes reached technical levels we have yet to fully comprehend. These troglodyte homes are not isolated artifacts, but a complete system of knowledge from land selection and structural calculation to room distribution, ventilation, and temperature control, demonstrating sophistication far beyond common assumptions about ancient communities. And perhaps that is why Matmata still stands an unsolved riddle in the desert. The perfectly circular courtyards, the evenly carved rooms that feel as if measured by steel tools, the connecting tunnels, all suggest that the ancient Berbers possessed not only experience, but possibly a technical knowledge system long buried by time. Until clear evidence emerges, Matmata will continue to stand in the desert as a reminder that ancient humans were capable of achievements we still struggle to replicate today. In the highlands of Zimbabwe, amid the massive stacked stone walls of the ancient city of Great Zimbabwe ruins that were once the radiant center of power in sub-Saharan Africa, lies a mystery that has challenged archaeologists for more than a century. It is the soapstone statues carved in the shape of strange birds, respectfully known as the Great Zimbabwe Soapstone Birds. They are not merely decorative artifacts, but seem to be sacred guardians of a silent civilization leaving behind for posterity questions with no answers. Each statue is a fragment of history, a symbol both familiar and unfamiliar cultural, yet hinting at something beyond the ordinary understanding of ancient people. In your opinion, what is the greatest mystery surrounding the soapstone birds? Share your perspective in the comments below. What perplexes researchers foremost is their origin and purpose. Although today the image of the Zimbabwe bird appears on the national coat of arms, the flag and the currency of Zimbabwe serving as a national emblem, the ancient people's intention behind carving them remains unknown. No records, writings, or symbolic systems have survived to explain it. When early archaeologists entered Great Zimbabwe in the late 19th century, they found 8 bird statues placed in the most sacred architectural locations as if they were silent sentinels guarding a lost city. From that moment, countless theories have emerged, but none have ever been completely convincing. The soapstone birds are so unusual in form that they cannot be attributed to any specific species. Their heads and beaks resemble eagles or hawks, symbols of power and vision in many cultures, but their legs have human-like characteristics, standing upright and dignified, evoking an entity that is half human, half bird. This hybrid appearance leads many scholars to believe they do not depict natural animals, but rather manifestations of ancestral spirits, deities, or sacred beings mentioned in Shona mythology. Some ethnologists suggest they are linked to the hungwe, a sacred bird, symbolizing royalty and the connection between the living and their ancestors. But all of this remains speculation because Great Zimbabwe left no written language. Only 8 statues have ever been discovered, and all were found in areas of religious or political significance. None were found in common residential spaces, nor is there any evidence that they were mass-produced. This reveals that they were not ordinary decorations, but likely served ritualistic, symbolic, or elite purposes, objects reserved for rulers or spiritual leaders. Their rarity and carefully chosen placement deepen their spiritual significance. But the aspect that astonishes the modern world the most, and also the greatest mystery surrounding the great Zimbabwe soapstone birds, is found in the ancient carving technology. Although soapstone is softer than granite or basalt, creating precise, symmetrical, sharp, and smooth details at the level seen in the soapstone birds far exceeds what historians believe the civilization was capable of. This is the seventh point and the pinnacle of the mystery. During the height of Great Zimbabwe, from the 11th to 15th centuries, the primary metal tools available were crude copper and iron. Archaeological excavations have uncovered very few refined tools capable of performing horizontal shaving, angled chamfering, evenly rounded edges, or smoothing long, narrow stone surfaces. Yet the soapstone birds exhibit a finish that astonishes experts. The curve of the bird's neck is continuous and unbroken. The edges of the beak are cut with perfect straightness. Decorative patterns along the body repeat with precise proportions so evenly that it seems unbelievable. Some statues even display near-perfect bilateral symmetry, a skill typically requiring master artisans and specialized tools. Many engineers who have examined high-resolution images admit they do not understand how the ancients removed all traces of manual carving. There are no coarse hammer marks, no accidental bumps, no random depressions, no grooves cut too deeply, and no proportional errors. What remains are only smooth surfaces, delicate lines, and precise geometry resembling the result of a controlled systematic manufacturing process. Some experts argue that among pre-modern African artifacts, very few match the level of refinement found in the soapstone birds. This leads many to wonder, did Great Zimbabwe possess a lost carving technology more advanced than history acknowledges, or did they use specialized metal tools of greater hardness yet to be discovered archaeologically? Or perhaps they spent years, maybe generations, perfecting each statue with near-obsessive precision, aiming to craft the most immaculate sacred object. Some propose that this technique was an esoteric skill passed only among elite artisans and vanished when the kingdom declined. The greatest challenge for archaeology today is that there is no direct evidence explaining the carving process, no workshops, no specialized tools, no incomplete statues, and no practice pieces have been found. Everything modern humans see is a finished product, like entering an art gallery, where every sketch and draft has disappeared. Another strange chapter. Several statues were stolen and traveled far from home. Some were taken to Europe in the 19th century by colonizers and collectors, ending up in museums and private collections for centuries. Only after Zimbabwe gained independence, and after intense diplomatic effort, were many of them repatriated. This resurgence of national identity transformed the soapstone birds into sacred symbols, not merely artifacts, but the spiritual essence of a forgotten past, proof of a once great kingdom. Today, the Shona people and many local communities regard the Zimbabwe bird as a symbol of ancestors' spiritual authority and protection. This leads many researchers to believe the statues represent not only artistic expression, but also a bridge between the human world and the spiritual world, embodying a being revered by their ancestors. Yet the mystery persists. Why only 8 statues? Why were they placed in the most important areas of the ancient city? And above all, how did the ancients carve them with such precision? The Great Zimbabwe Soapstone. Birds continue to stand in silence through the centuries. Though time erodes the walls of the ancient city, the birds remain strangely majestic witnesses to a vanished civilization, remnants of an art form ahead of its time, and a mystery never fully solved. Many believe that only by understanding the true significance of the Zimbabwe bird can we reach the deepest layer of Great Zimbabwe's history, where art, religion, power, and ancient knowledge blend into a secret never fully revealed. Walnut Canyon cliff dwellings is one of the most enigmatic cliffside architectural complexes in North America, where every stone, every wall, and every shelter niche raises questions that go far beyond the explanations offered by traditional archaeology. Deep within the canyon landscapes of Arizona, the Sinagua people created a suspended living environment on sheer rock slopes at heights that even modern individuals would require specialized safety equipment to reach. When one looks at those small stone houses clinging tightly to the curve of the cliff, it is impossible not to wonder, how could a community nearly 1,000 years ago have constructed such structures using rudimentary tools in terrain so treacherous it seems impossible to even stand on? That question lies at the heart of Walnut Canyon's greatest mystery, and the deeper researchers explore, the more astonishing anomalies they uncover. How do you think the Sinagua managed to build their cliffside homes suspended on the sheer walls of Walnut Canyon? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The first issue is the height and steepness of the cliff faces. The alcoves are positioned dozens of meters above the canyon floor. The terrain is not only sloped, but also includes smooth surfaces that easily fracture due to the geological nature of the sandstone layers. So where did the Sinagua stand to place the first stones? Did they erect scaffolding, use ropes, or rely on some kind of advanced climbing technique? There is no archaeological evidence of large scaffolds, no drill holes in the cliff walls for anchoring beams, no rope remnants, and no traces of climbing tools. This raises the possibility that they used natural ledges to stand on, but even then, transporting hundreds of stones, clay and mortar would have required an extraordinary level of coordination and organization far beyond what a simple, prehistoric community is typically assumed to possess. Next is the matter of building materials. The stones that form the walls were not always available directly inside the alcoves. Many stones are relatively uniform in size, suggesting they were selected and transported from elsewhere. But how were they moved? Who climbed up and handed each stone over? Each stone, though small, becomes a life-threatening burden when carried up a vertical cliff. One hypothesis suggests that the Sinagua used narrow trails that have since collapsed, but modern geological surveys have found no evidence of pathways wide enough for transporting such materials. This has led researchers to propose a bolder idea. Perhaps they transported everything from the canyon rim, slowly lowering materials and pulling them inward into the alcoves. However, the shape of the canyon walls does not support a simple vertical lowering mechanism, because many alcoves sit recessed deep inside the cliff, unreachable directly from above. This presents a clear paradox. They could not approach from the top, nor climb easily from below. So how did they reach those locations to build in the first place? This is what makes Walnut Canyon such an extraordinarily difficult ancient architectural phenomenon to explain. Not only were the homes built in nearly impossible locations, but their level of completion is impressive. The stone walls are relatively straight, the mortar is evenly mixed and applied with consistent thickness, and the interior spaces are arranged to block wind, retain warmth, and deter animals. Floor traces show that they once laid additional clay layers for insulation. Notably, many rooms contain evidence of natural ventilation systems, demonstrating an understanding of airflow that often appears only in far more advanced civilizations. Some alcoves even have additional walls constructed to narrow the opening, reducing heat and direct sunlight in the summer. The more closely one observes the structure of each home, the clearer it becomes that the Sinagua did not build randomly. They chose alcoves of the right depth, with optimal seasonal sunlight angles, with relatively flat rock floors, and with stable stone ceilings that resisted collapse. What astonishes archaeologists is that these choices seem to reflect a deep understanding of geology and microclimates inside the canyon. How could a non-literate community with no modern measuring tools analyze such complex natural phenomena so accurately? The mystery may lie in their keen observational skills or a form of indigenous knowledge that has since been lost. Beyond construction issues, one factor that adds to the enigma of Walnut Canyon is the Sinagua's ability to survive in such harsh conditions. Living on cliff faces meant limited access to water, high risk of accidents, restricted farming space, and great difficulty transporting supplies. Yet somehow, they thrived for centuries. Surveys show that they farmed on the canyon rim, growing corn beans and squash, and then carried the harvest down little by little. They collected rainwater using natural depressions, making use of every drop that trickled along the rock walls. This not only demonstrates adaptability, but also a collective survival strategy that was remarkably clever and highly optimized for the constraints of their environment. Still, what makes Walnut Canyon even harder to understand is the sudden disappearance of the Sinagua around the 13th century. There are no signs of war, no evidence of massive fires or natural disasters. The homes were left nearly intact, tools undamaged, and there is no indication of chaotic evacuation. It seems they left in an organized, peaceful, and decisive manner, abandoning a once flourishing community suspended on the cliffside. Many theories have been proposed: prolonged drought conflicts with neighboring tribes, religious shifts leading to migration, or abrupt resource decline. But none fully explains why a community that had adapted so well to this unusual terrain would suddenly abandon everything in such a short span of time. Another layer of mystery surrounding Walnut Canyon comes from signs of long-distance trade. Archaeologists have found Pacific Ocean seashells, obsidian from volcanic regions hundreds of kilometers away, and pottery from various neighboring cultures. This indicates that the Sinagua were not isolated at all. They were part of a wide trade network. But this raises a new question. Why would a community capable of such far-reaching connections choose to live in a location so dangerously difficult to access? Was it for defense, spiritual reasons, or some tradition that has vanished over time? Many researchers believe Walnut Canyon's location was not chosen by chance. The canyon has unique acoustic properties, creating powerful echoes that may have been used for rituals. Some rooms contain signs of altars, pottery offerings, and faint carvings, suggesting the area may once have been a ceremonial or sacred center. If so, the construction of cliffside dwellings may have been motivated not only by practicality, but by deep spiritual beliefs. The Sinagua may have chosen this location because they believed living close to the sky and far from the earth brought them nearer to the divine. All these elements, treacherous terrain, inexplicable construction techniques, sudden disappearance, long-distance trade, and ritual traces combine to form one of North America's greatest archaeological mysteries. But despite all these intriguing aspects, the most important question remains: how did the Sinagua build homes suspended on vertical cliffs? That question still has no complete answer. Archaeologists have speculations, but none can fully replicate the construction process with convincing accuracy. Walnut Canyon thus stands as a living testament to the astonishing ingenuity of ancient people, and as a reminder that much knowledge has been lost to history. Perhaps the Sinagua possessed simple yet highly effective construction techniques that we no longer remember. Or perhaps they viewed the environment in an entirely different way, allowing them to exploit natural features in ways we have never imagined. Whatever the truth may be, Walnut Canyon endures as a monument to mystery and craftsmanship, a place where stone homes hang between earth and sky, reminding us that the past was far from primitive. Ancient people in their own ways accomplished feats that still command our admiration. And until the puzzle is solved, the question, how did they build it, will remain the most compelling mystery of the Walnut Canyon cliff dwellings. Hidden among the rugged limestone hills of Oshanichi, Bosnia and Herzegovina, the ruins of the ancient city of Dawson stand like a challenge hurled at both time and modern science. Even though only scattered stone remnants remain, Dawson is still powerful enough to overwhelm anyone who stands before it, offering a glimpse into a civilization that was once mighty, yet so mysterious that history records it only in faint, incomplete lines. And among all the strange features of Dawson, the most astonishing are the Cyclopean walls, built from massive stone blocks, weighing several tons, fitted together with such precision that archaeologists still cannot fully explain how they were constructed. According to you, how did ancient builders move and assemble these multi-ton Cyclopean stones with such impossible precision? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Many refer to Dawson as the Mycenae of the Balkans, yet that comparison only opens the door to countless new questions. The walls here rise several meters high, thick and formidable, assembled from polygonal stone blocks weighing from several tons to many tons. No mortar, no metal fastenings, no fill, only colossal stones fitted so tightly that even a thin blade can barely slip between them. Such precision recalls the Cyclopean techniques seen at Mycenae Tiryns and even older Mediterranean structure sites which, according to Greek myth, were said to have been built by the one-eyed giants known as the Cyclops. The Daorsi, an Illyrian tribe of the Iron Age, were not known for possessing advanced stoneworking technology. Archaeological records never suggest that they mastered any engineering far beyond their era. And yet the walls of Dawson demonstrate exactly that a level of construction astonishingly advanced, far surpassing that of neighboring Illyrian communities. More mysterious still is how these massive stones were transported from the foot of the mountain to the hilltop, where Dawson stands. The terrain of Oshanichi is steep and jagged, entirely unsuitable for dragging multi-ton stones uphill. So how did the Daorsi manage it? Pulleys, rollers. Some ancient technique now completely lost to time. There are no traces of transport routes, no evidence of ancient machinery, and no written descriptions. All that remains is the lingering question, who built these Cyclopean walls, and by what method? Additionally, the inward-leaning design of the walls reveals a structural technique optimized for compression well ahead of its time. The higher the wall rises, the more stable it becomes, naturally resistant to earthquakes. This kind of engineering is typically associated with civilizations possessing a deep understanding of mechanics and architecture. Yet paradoxically, the Daorsi left behind no other structures that display this technique. The technology appears not to have evolved gradually, but rather to have emerged abruptly, like a foreign method applied once and then lost forever. For this reason, many researchers suspect that Dawson's Cyclopean techniques were not invented by the Daorsi themselves, but introduced by migrating groups, traveling artisans, or engineers from the Aegean region. A bolder theory proposes that the walls are the inheritance of a far older civilization, perhaps one that existed long before the Daorsi who merely built their city atop earlier foundations. Around the world, from Peru to Japan, from Greece to the Balkans, ancient megalithic sites share a strange pattern. High-precision stonework appears suddenly without developmental stages and then vanishes. Daosin fits perfectly into this pattern. This sudden and unexplained mastery makes Section 1 the central enigma of the entire ancient city. These stones weighing several tons, who placed them here, and with what power, the question goes far beyond engineering. It touches the very origins of the Daosi civilization. When archaeologists compare Daosin with other Illyrian cities, the differences become strikingly clear. While typical Illyrian settlements were built using small stones or wood, with simple construction methods, Daosin instead displays a strong Mycenaean architectural style, something exceedingly rare in the Balkans. From the shape of the fortification walls to the polygonal stone-fitting technique and the overall defensive layout, everything reflects a pronounced influence from the Aegean world. This anomaly has led to three major hypotheses. The first suggests that the Daosi had deep connections with the Greeks and may have learned advanced building techniques from traveling craftsmen. The second proposes that a group of Aegean people migrated to this region, bringing Cyclopean technology with them. And the third, more daring hypothesis, argues that Daosin was constructed on the foundations of a much older structure belonging to a civilization entirely absent from recorded history. Whichever hypothesis is correct, it is evident that Daosin's architecture could not have emerged naturally. It originated from a source of knowledge far beyond the scope of Balkan civilizations, as though it had been passed down from another world, long vanished. The Cyclopean architecture of Daosin is not simply the stacking of large stones, but the expression of an extraordinarily sophisticated structural technique. The walls were built with an inward incline, wider at the base and narrower toward the top, forming a kind of extremely stable horizontal pyramid. This distinctive design grants a series of crucial advantages, such as increased overall stability, reduced gravitational pressure on the upper layers, enhanced resistance to natural seismic vibrations, and the ability for the entire structure to endure for thousands of years. What is remarkable is that this inward-sloping pyramid-like construction method appears in several prehistoric structures around the world, yet is completely absent from traditional Illyrian architecture. Its presence at Daosin, therefore, strengthens the suspicion that the Daosi adopted or inherited a building technique not native to their region, pointing toward possible long-distance cultural connections, ancient migrating groups, or even a body of architectural knowledge from a far older civilization that has vanished from history. Daosin is believed to have been the center of the Daosi kingdom, a wealthy Illyrian tribe, but the true purpose of its Cyclopean walls remains an unsolved mystery. Many hypotheses have been proposed. Some suggest it was once a military fortress, built to defend against attacks from the Dalmatai. Others believe it may have served as a ceremonial center with religious activities that have yet to be deciphered. And there is also the possibility that it was simply the core of a city constructed atop a much older foundation. However, no ancient texts describe its function, nor are there any comparative structures that clearly indicate its intended role. This absence of information has made Daosin one of the most enigmatic sites in Europe, a place where every stone seems to conceal a story that has never been told. Within the ruins of Daosin, archaeologists have uncovered a variety of remarkable artifacts, from bronze ritual masks, whose religious or ceremonial purposes remain unknown, to Daosi coins engraved with ship motifs and enigmatic symbols that defy clear interpretation, along with imported Greek pottery that proves the existence of extensive trade networks far beyond the local region. All of these discoveries indicate that Daosen was a crossroads of cultures, yet it was a cultural intersection of an unusual kind, where the symbols, practices, and artistic styles do not fully align with either Greek or Illyrian traditions. This mismatch has left researchers even more perplexed, raising the possibility that the site may have been influenced by another civilization or by ancient customs long lost to history. Around the 1st century BCE, Daosen suddenly vanished from history, and the remaining records are vague, suggesting that the city may have been destroyed by the Delmatae, conquered by the Romans, or perhaps collapsed due to a major earthquake. However, the archaeological evidence is inconsistent and not strong enough to confirm any of these theories. Everything about Daosen makes it appear less like a city that was violently destroyed, and more like one that was simply abandoned, slowly swallowed by nature over time, leaving behind a mysterious void in history that no one has been able to explain. For many centuries, Daosen disappeared almost entirely from human memory. It is absent from medieval records. No local legends mention it. No historical texts describe it. It is known only through its surviving stones, massive walls, standing silent, like witnesses who can no longer speak. And that silence deepens the mystery. Why did a powerful ancient center vanish without a trace?